Hey everyone, this is a very last minute episode. Um, I'm here with Casey Gleason. You
Hi.
guys might know the the one and only who is not part of Godless Engineer. There are individuals, in case that wasn't clear. I know sometimes it cannot be, but yeah, there's this confirmation.
I
Uh,
am a separate person. I'm not just like a speaker over there.
we usually only hear your voice, but yeah.
I know.
Now we see that you actually exist outside of
I
the
do.
voice realm, not a ghost, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are here for a different kind of show today. Like most of the people that are here know why they're here, and you've probably read the letter from the Posty sisters about an incident at NaNoCon 2025. So I I think all of us, not just me, all of us have been struggling with over the last 6 months or so with whether to release more information about this. We've been we consulted other people. We've talked to each other. I've said it so many times. I don't want to do this. I don't want to release it. I want to keep people's privacy private because that was the main goal from the start. But the harm that has been done has been so major to especially the people that were hardly even involved. Arden Hart, Dr. Ben, Glenda Jordan, they simply for saying my eyeballs saw this thing. That's all they say. They gave a statement as a witness of something that they witnessed, obviously, right? And so uh, I don't know. It's the disgusting transphobia and misogyny that came after that, especially after these specific people, and Bree and Ember, has been so widespread that w- we had no choice. Like this was the choice that we had at the end. We have to share our information, and that's basically the only reason why I decided to make this document and put it out there. Like, but like my heart was like, don't do it. My head was like, it's the right thing to do for the community,
Mhm.
and we know that it's definitely not what Nancy wanted. I mean, Jay and Patty
Right.
have admitted from the very beginning they did not have permission or consent from Nancy to share it. So, um,
I do think we should make it clear though that the reason these things were kept private was for privacy requested by one of the people involved. And it isn't the person that you all are being told. There was no cover up. That's never happened. People that SR works with were told immediately. And anybody who needed to be told was told immediately. But it was kept quiet. It was quiet accountability. That's what we were working for. That's what we were asked to do by the person by the accuser. That's what we were asked, and that's what we did. So it wasn't a cover up. Plenty of people knew. It was just not a public spectacle, and unfortunately, it has become a public spectacle, and so this is uh, necessary at this point.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think there was the silence wasn't complicity. It wasn't that we were trying to be complicit to anybody's
Of
criminal
course not.
behavior. It was
Right.
rather like people ask, like we're saying, Nancy asked all of us specifically. We're gonna go over this part in the document, like how specific she was about keeping this private, and we've tried to do this as far as we could for as many months as we could, and but we've been pushed to this point. Like the harassment and everything that came after that is just like it was just too great, and it involved way too many people for us to be able to say, okay, we're going to keep Nancy's privacy over all the harm that is being done to all of these other folks.
Right.
A second thing that I wanted to clarify was that the document that we're about to go over includes screenshots from Nancy's letter, which did not exist until February 2026. It also includes screenshots of conversations that happened after September 10th. And there is a misconception that it is the same document that I sent the police as my testimony, and it is not the same. Even the 17-page document that was leaked by Jay Bundy and Michael Beverly was not the same document that I sent the police. That included majorly just my conversations with Nancy. It didn't include a big timeline. It didn't include anything about the false allegations against me. The 17-page document was just that. It was clearing up the parts of the letter that were incorrect about me specifically.
Yeah, it happened so February 25th, I believe, was the date of the letter, right? And
That's right.
so this response document came after that, and the police investigation was done by early September. So any witness statements provided to the police were done so individually. There was no collaboration on that. Anybody who provided that did so on their own.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, if you do the math, the document that we are about to present did not exist until after February 2026. So, I just want to clear that part up. Okay. So, I would also say that there's just so many people asking for more information. I've had people like Faith Exposed in my email asking, "Give me more screenshots, give me more screenshots," and I'm like, "It is not my like." Sure, I did contact people. Yeah, I will admit this. I did contact people that came to me and they were like, "Hey, I read Nancy's letter and uh, what's up with that?" Because I was named in the letter, right? So it's normal for people to go to the people that are named in a letter. And so that's where I gave people more facts. And that's where I was like, okay, I need to put this in one place because there's too many people asking me questions. And that's how the document came to be. It came to be as answers mostly about the false allegations against me. And then it just became more and more and more as people were like giving me more screenshots.
Well, it became more because AJ only has her parts of the story, right? And I have my parts of the story, and other people involved have their parts of the story. And that those things have trickled out here and there since the event happened, mostly since December, right? Mostly since December. But to put all the puzzle pieces together, and you'll actually see part of that happen kind of as we go through this, that since we all only had our own parts, there are some misconceptions about it that we have learned by putting all the pieces together. So that's really important as this story lays out too.
Yeah, and that's a good point because there's also a lot of things of like, oh, AJ made up a story. AJ created the narrative that everybody's supposed to have, but that is not true. Like after
No.
Nancy left the community, we were like, why? What happened? Nobody had any idea. There were any indication that she was going to do that, and so we were like, okay, she talks to this person. Let me go ask this person. Are you still in contact with Nancy? Like I talked to you, I talked to Helen, I talked to Bree, etc. Like people that I knew were in touch with Nancy. Like, have you talked to her? Have you heard from her? What is going on? And as we were having conversations, we've started to realize, oh wait, like I didn't know that part. What does that mean? Like I was told something different, and that's when we realized, okay, we have at least that we know of. There were at least 3 different versions of the story. One which was a completely consensual engagement, and one which was a completely unwarranted random assault, and then one that was in the middle. So yeah,
it's definitely more of a puzzle pieces put together. It's not a narrative. It's all the pieces put together so that mostly we could figure out what happened because there were so many holes. Everybody had holes in their stories, which you would expect, right? Because everybody has their own perspectives, experiences, and all that. Just to, we should probably say this up front. AJ was at NaNoCon.
Yeah.
I was at NaNoCon. We were both eyewitnesses to things that happened at NaNoCon, which you will not find from the other people telling the other side of the narrative that they're telling. They were not at NaNoCon. They did not know about this for months. And so that's what you're hearing. Those are people you're hearing from. We were there. We witnessed things. We are not the only witnesses, but I just want to make it clear that we were actually there.
Yeah, and that each one of us, as soon as we were told, we believed whatever version we were told. Like we
Yes.
believed it, okay?
Yeah.
And until more things started to come out, and it didn't become like, oh, we don't believe it anymore. It was just like, okay, there are different things now. Like when you're presented with new information, that's what you're supposed to do. If you have a crime that somebody reports and the crime seems to be really mild, and as you investigate you realize that it was a major crime, then you're going to have a
Mhm.
higher punishment. And the same
Yeah.
goes for the opposite, right? Like if somebody reports something super major but then the investigation determines that it wasn't that major, then you know you punish accordingly. And I think
Mhm.
that's the appropriate way to see things. And as we understood more from directly from Nancy herself, as we were having conversations with her directly and not
Yes.
through Patty, not through Jay, not through anybody else, with
Correct.
Nancy, that's when we all came to, okay, all right, well, that's what happened. Okay, all right, actually, like the timeline was different. She did change some stuff, and we all understood what she was trying to say.
Mhm.
Um, but, anyways, that's just the part of that people don't understand is that we did believe Nancy.
We did,
And
and we were communicating with her directly.
yeah, and another part that needs to be super clarified is that when Elliott told people to believe Nancy, it's being taken as, oh well, he took accountability for everything that he did, which means that he did what she said he did. No, that's not what that meant. What
Mhm.
believe Nancy meant was he had a lot of blackouts throughout that night, and he didn't remember a lot of parts of the night. And so he basically said, whatever Nancy fills into those gaps must be what happened because I don't remember it, which
Mhm.
is pretty reasonable to me, right? But when we found out that those gaps that had been filled were not correct, then that's when we adjusted. When everybody was like, okay, all right, then something different must have happened.
Yeah,
And
there's also a narrative out there that we're all being manipulated by SR, that we're telling his narrative, and that's not true. In fact, I was the first person to talk to SR after the incident when he had no idea that he was being accused of anything. I was the very first person to talk to him. And I didn't ask for his side of the story. In fact, I've never gotten his side of the story. And we have barely spoken about this incident, me and him. At the time when this happened, I was a friendly acquaintance of Elliott's. My husband knew him better than I did, but I had met him a couple of times. It was friendly, but I didn't know him. I was friends with Nancy. She's stayed in my home. Her and her husband have stayed in my home. Okay. So, I mean, we weren't the best of friends, but I knew a lot about her personal life. I knew a lot of things that were going on in her marriage, and she shared those things with me. So that's where I was at this point. I was friends with Nancy. I was a friendly acquaintance with SR because my husband worked with him.
right, yeah. Uh, okay, so we can start with going over the document.
Sure.
Let me scroll up. All right, so we've put this in a website to make it easier to understand. We're not going to cover every single part of it because it's really long. If anybody wants to go check it out, you can see the website is called What Happened at NaNoCon2025.com, and it includes uh, all the downloadable documents,
Mhm.
including Nancy's letter. Also, there's a bunch of videos of other people who have covered this situation, as well as the one by Trustee Abe, who went over every single word of the document. So if you
Mhm.
want to watch it, you can watch that one. If you want to read it, you can read it off of the website.
Yeah.
This video that we are doing today is going to cover more of like the more important parts and parts that needed clarification, as well as here's the thing, we keep saying this, when we come across new information, we change our minds. If we're wrong,
Mhm.
we admit being wrong, and I admit that there was a part of the letter of the document that we're about to see that that we did not have pieced yet until like 2 days ago.
Mhm.
And so we are going to update that today, which is actually a pretty big deal, but we'll get to that in a moment. Um, so I know Maya covered the whole notarizing thing. That notarizing doesn't mean much as far as the letter being factual. It just means that the person signed it. So the very first example of that is that the date of the incident in the letter is incorrect. It happened on July 26th, which was a Saturday, because July 25th is a Friday. So like at the very beginning of the letter, you can already say like, okay, either somebody made a mistake, which is understandable, but the notary did not check the facts.
Well, that's not a notary's job. Like, that's not what
Right.
notarization means. Notaries don't verify documents are accurate or truthful. All they do is verify that the person who signed at the bottom is the person. Like, they check their ID, and that's literally it. It
That's
takes
why.
a minute, and the notary doesn't even read. In my experience with notarization, the notary doesn't even read the document. They don't care what it is. They don't care what's in it. They just notarize it.
No, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I recently notarized something online, like a virtual notary, and they did record it on video, but all they did was sign it. It took like 3 minutes for the whole thing, and I mean, as you're about to see, it's a very long document.
Yes.
So anyway, so we're gonna start with the privacy section of this, which is many of us have refused to speak publicly because Nancy wanted it to be private, and so these are some communications. The first one is between me and Nancy, and when I was telling her about the ACA meeting, and I'd say that nobody else is going to know except for the people, the main people at the ACA that needed to know. Like the host wouldn't know, the moderators wouldn't know, etc. So they should not feel judged to come on the show later on. Then there's a mention of Helen told Bree and Dr. Ben and all stuff. And Nancy says, "That's fine. I know how drama works. People always want to be in the know. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed by it. Everyone will figure it out eventually." Um, then there was a conversation between Casey and Nancy,
Mhm.
and is talking about the ACA situation as well. And Nancy says that she hopes that people will talk to her first before foaming at the mouth and making, I'm sorry, before forming their own judgment. Why did you see foaming? I don't know. Don't mind me. I'm just barely awake.
That's
Be-
It's been
I
a long
guess,
few months, AJ. It's been a long few months, huh?
and there are people foaming at the mouth. So uh,
Mhm.
that's probably where it came from. But anyways, it says, "I hope people will talk to me instead of just forming their own judgments on it. SR and I are truly the only ones that know what transpired between us." Casey says she agrees. And then Nancy says, "Yes, AJ said that she will give my update to the ACA." And also, Elliott Cantor reached out to Nancy and she told him the same. So hopefully, nothing will be wrong for SR.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that it's clear to everybody. This demonstrates no cover up happened. Immediately people were told literally what two days after,
Yeah,
two days after it happened, people were being told. So there was no massive cover up at all. It just wasn't a public spectacle. That's
as
it.
it should be, because that's Nancy did not want a public spectacle. So
She didn't.
anyway, so okay, here's the next part. It was the conversation continues between Nancy and Casey. And Casey says, "We will certainly keep you and his privacy. I'm sorry, his private information private." And I'm glad AJ was part of the ACA stuff. And part of the ACA stuff means that I told Elliott that I was going to go tell the ACA. I didn't care if he wanted to or not. I was gonna tell
Mhm.
them anyway. And I did. And he's like, you know what? I already scheduled a call with them. So we combined the call, and it was a whole bunch of people, well, producers and board members, not like hosts or anything.
Yeah.
And I told Nancy's story from the letter.
Hmm.
Elliot told what he remembered, and this was before he spoke to Nancy. Um, so anyway, so okay, so this Nancy says enough people know that I don't think it will stay private for very long, but that's fine. It will blow over eventually. And I mean, I don't think that means that she wanted that. I think that means that she
No.
knew it was going to happen, but she didn't want it.
Yeah. Yeah, she knew it would probably get out eventually, but she was just hoping for, I don't know if she just wanted some time to pass between. But her ideal situation, as she always told to me, was that her husband not find out. And she thought if it blew up in the community that her husband would likely find out. So that's why she asked for it to be kept as quiet as possible, but she still wanted some kind of accountability. And so that's what we worked for. Like AJ said, she went to the ACA. Nobody was covering this up. And the reason AJ went to the ACA is she's also part of the ACA. And so, that was appropriate for her to do that.
Yeah, I was part of AC at that time. I'm not
Yes, at that
anymore,
time.
but
Yeah.
I was. Yeah. Um, but anyways, so then the next Casey says, given how you and SR are both handling it, I think we've got the best shot at this being contained. And Nancy says, I honestly wanted it to stay between us to begin with, but I understand that witness one. Now, witness one is the person that met with Nancy uh, allegedly after the alleged incident.
Right.
Um, so witness one felt she had to tell someone. She has her own traumas in this, and I'm sure things trigger her. And so this is referring the to the NaNoCon board being told, to Elliot Cantor being told that there was an incident. And
Yes.
this right here shows that Nancy did not want that. This was done on this was done for Nancy without
Hmm.
her consent. Now,
On her behalf. Right.
I'm not trying to throw shade at this person at all, because like
Sure.
this is something that if someone feels like they have to do it at at the moment, that is fine. That is their own decision. I'm just speaking of Nancy specifically. Nancy did not want that to happen
Right.
and was not asked. So
Yeah. And she is not the one who reported it initially.
correct, which
Hmm.
matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all knew about that, and we were like trying to follow her guidance on what she wanted to do, because something had already happened that was done without her input, basically.
At least that's what she told us. If there was input, we don't know about it. That's what was told to us.
Right, and that's
Mhm.
what we were operating on. Right.
Right.
So next is a message between Nancy and I said, I know. Okay, this was a part of like Nancy not wanting things to go further. She said she told me that she thought someone told Seth, and which is not ambush apostate Seth, a different Seth, and
Hmm.
that Nancy said she wasn't happy about it. So I said it's a little discouraging to hear that others haven't respected your wishes, that this not go any further.
Mhm.
So she and I were in constant conversation about this, that she did not want it to come out. And I was supportive of that because that's what she wanted. It isn't about me. It wasn't about how I felt. It wasn't about
Right.
how what I wanted to do. When you're supporting someone who is an alleged victim, what you're supposed to do is respect their wishes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
And
gonna.
the reason that a few of us were talking to each other is because Nancy had told us that she had told the others. So like we kind of knew who knew at the very beginning because Nancy told us. So that's how we kind of knew and were connected. But none of us really talked much about it until after her husband found out.
That's right. Yeah. Like we,
Mhm.
it's not like we were all going behind her back, being like, "Oh, like I don't believe it."
No,
No, that
we were
didn't
all talking to
happen.
her. We were all talking to
That's
her,
so.
supporting her. I mean, I even offered her husband was in India after NaNoCon for a few weeks, and I even offered to go up there and stay with her because she was alone, and I didn't want her to be alone while she was, processing all of this. So that's the kind of support that she had.
Yeah. Okay. There's a question. There's a comment here.
Mhm.
Nancy didn't want it to blow up, but still wanted a measure of accountability. And yes, there was accountability. There
Yeah.
is. Uh, see, the story isn't owed to anybody. It has come to the point where we have to share some of it. But privately, there has been accountability. uh,
Mhm.
SR was taken off of his position at NaNoCon, his
He
volunteer
was.
position at NaNoCon. He was removed right away because of the situation with the drinking, not necessarily because they thought that there was anything criminal, right? Like after the police investigation was over, they removed him because of the drinking. I'm sorry, I don't know if the rumor happened before or after. I will correct that part. But he was removed from that. He's not allowed to speak at this year's NanoCon, right? So that's another accountability. Um,
Mhm.
then the therapy. Nancy wanted him to go to therapy. He did go to therapy. There's also
Mhm.
some, I've seen some mentions of rehab or alcohol therapy or for addiction, but what therapy he got is between SR and his doctor. Okay,
Yeah.
it's none of our fucking business. I don't think, yeah, as far as I know, he's not an alcoholic.
Mhm.
As
And
and that's
for the ACA, because I know there are some people who are concerned about the back cruise and things that happened there. For the
mm,
ACA, he was not permitted to drink at the back cruise, and we'll hit the back cruise as we get on. But we're just talking like just general accountability things that have happened. He was not permitted to drink at the back cruise, but he was permitted to continue to host it, and that was because the ACA talked to Nancy and she told them that's what she wanted. So
actually,
they
she told me to tell them. She asked
okay.
me to
She
tell
worked
them.
through AJ. So, but Nancy's wishes were considered in all of this. So that's how accountability worked through this process. And there were a very few number of people that were working on this with the people that Elliott worked with at the time. So, that did happen. There
Right,
have been, it may not be the kind of accountability that any individual person wants, right? But it's not up to you. This had nothing to do with you. This had to do with Nancy.
right. Okay, so now we get to the incident timeline real quick. I'm gonna go super quick over it. The
Yeah.
letter states that around 5 or 6 p.m., Elliot approached Nancy and she described him as a little drunk and she bought him more drinks. Then 8:30 is Glenda's fire show. I spent dinner with Nancy and Patty. Patty went to bed around 8, and then Nancy only drank about 2 glasses of wine the entire time that we were at dinner, and she seemed pretty clear headed. Then, as I left the table with Nancy, I walked up to Elliot, who was standing there with my husband and somebody else, and we chatted for like 20 minutes. And as my husband and I were leaving, we started laughing and we said that how drunk Elliot already was, and we were joking that he wasn't going to make it to his speech the next morning. Then dinner ends at 9, and people moved on to the bar and lobby area, which is where most of the other interactions took place. Um, and just to lay it out, uh, from what I understand, Nancy Elliott, an anonymous person, and John Gleason were sitting at the bar. At some points, I think Arden or Dr. Ben were at the bar a couple times, but I believe they were also at a different table with Glenda. So that was like the setup. And then you, Casey, and some other people were sitting at the lobby area, which you could see the
Yes.
bar from the lobby and the lobby from the bar, but not the
Yes.
restaurant. It was kind of a little weird setup.
Mhm.
Um,
We've got
okay.
the map coming up. We'll show you.
Yeah, we'll go over that. Anyways, so at 9:30, Glenda, Arden, and Dr. Ben were sitting at a table and they were observing Nancy aggressively kissing Elliot while he attempted to turn away from her French kissing. And Glenda considered intervening until Nancy and Elliot got up and walked away. At which point, Arden had walked away somewhere else. So Glenda texts Arden and tells them, I've seen the message actually, where Glenda says like it looked like they're now engaging in a consensual encounter because they walk away together and they seemed comfortable, so uh, they let that go. Um, all right. At 11, there was an anonymous witness that tried to get Elliot away from Nancy, but it didn't work, and so this person left. And the reason I mentioned that is we know from the timeline that the stairwell incident has to happen between 11 and 12 p.m. Um,
Yes.
I'm sorry, 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. The
Yeah.
words
Yes.
times.
And just to be
um,
clear, none of this is meant to disparage Nancy or say, well, she was doing this, so this didn't happen. That's not the intent here. The intent, this is this is the timeline put together by witnesses. These are things that people saw. None of this is meant to say that something else did not happen. I just want to make that super clear.
right, and also on top of that, when we talk about there are some conversations about sexual content, right? Like sexual aspects of the situation. And the
Mhm.
reason we speak about those are because they were brought up by Nancy specifically in the letter, in the original email, and all of that. And so
Mhm.
what we are trying to clarify is whether those things were factual or whether those things were different from what Nancy told us. That's all.
Right. Right.
This isn't to judge anybody's
No.
behavior as kinks, partner relationship, none of that.
Right. Well, it's also necessary, and I guess I left this part out. It's also necessary to correct the narrative because the narrative that is being spun is that it is one of Nancy being this innocent blonde. Oh my God, when I heard her say it, sweet blonde Nancy, I was like, what are you talking about? There are just really untrue things being said. And so these are the things witnesses saw. And I think it's important that people know these are people who were here. This is what they saw. What you're being told is from people who were not there, who saw nothing, who have a vendetta, and these are facts. Okay. It's not to disparage Nancy. It's fine to be sexual. It's totally fine.
So exactly, yeah. And nobody ever judged her for anything that we had received before or after. So anyway, so between 12:15 and 12:30 a.m., Chad Harris helped Elliot look for the wallet, and this is where there was a funny comment of like Chad was patting down Elliot looking for the wallet. That's how we remember that happened. Then Dr. Ben joins them, and so between 12:25 and 1 a.m., Elliot and Dr. Ben look for the wallet together. And at some point, all three of them are engaging with each other, but then they separate. Chad leaves the premise, and Ben continues to help Elliot. We'll go over this part a little bit further down. Um, so we know that the stairwell incident happened between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. So we don't know where Nancy was during the time that Elliott was looking for the wallet. Um, Now 12:55 a.m. and 1 a.m. the witness one that we mentioned earlier runs into Nancy in the hallway, and Nancy states that she just come out of the stairwell and alleged that she had been attacked by Elliot moments before, despite not having been with him for at least 45 minutes.
And we know that because other people were with Elliott.
Right. Okay, so these parts don't really matter too much. We'll move down. Okay, there were some conversations about drug use, and I just want to clarify that Elliot has stated that he had not eaten anything all day, and I can confirm that he did not eat lunch because I he grabbed a sandwich when I was grabbing a sandwich, and then he left it, and he left. He didn't eat it, and then I know from somebody else that he was perched, he was bought dinner, and he did not fucking eat his dinner. So so when you're drinking the same amount of alcohol that you normally drink, but you haven't eaten all day, that's gonna affect you differently. And that's important.
Sure.
So the drug thing came to be because Nancy told me originally that Elliot had left several times. In the new letter, it claims that happened in the stairwell, but to me, she told me that happened at the bar. And so that's where the idea came from, like, oh, what if he was going and doing some drugs? And then we all talk about it, and then people talk to Elliot, and even Patty right here on the screenshot agrees that that was not the case and that there were no drugs involved. So no drugs involved, people. Elliot is not a drug dealer. He's not a drug addict. He's not like selling leadership courses for drugs. All right, stop with the
I mean,
conspiracies.
I think this also demonstrates that we were all trying to figure out what happened, right? Nobody was trying to cover anything up. We were trying to uncover what happened. How
Right,
did this happen? What happened? And so, again, demonstration of no cover up.
right, yeah,
And people not on Elliott's side. I think the thing that everybody seems to, not everybody, but a small group of people that are crazy, seem to think that everybody is like on Elliott's side, running Elliott's story, running cover for Elliott, and that is not what happened. And all the evidence demonstrates that we were all there for Nancy.
right, yeah. So anyways, at this point in Nancy's letter, she claims that she was tipsy by the time that they were going to the stairwell, and that Elliot was extremely drunk. I've heard this from so many people. Even he had some false memories from that night. He thought that he yelled at a bunch of people, and then he went the next day and apologized to those people, and they were like, "What are you talking about? You didn't yell at me." So like that tells you how drunk he was.
Oh yeah, he was
Um,
fucked up, and it's kind of laughable the way that he's been described with some of the things that have been said about him, how he planned it, and all this other shit. Elliott couldn't find his pockets. I'm sorry, but like Elliott was fucked up, right? This whole idea that he's some kind of mastermind is so stupid. It's so dumb.
right, yeah. But so in the letter, Nancy describes herself as tipsy and Elliot as extremely drunk, and she seems to be aware of the enormous difference in their intoxication levels. And there are so many other witnesses that cleared that up, that was the case. Nancy was pretty clear headed. Elliot was very fucked up. Um, and we we have to keep in mind here, if the gender roles were reversed, people will see that as a problem. I see it as a
Absolutely.
problem.
I see it as a problem even with the gender roles not reversed, but I get sometimes it takes reversing the gender roles to see it. Like
Yeah,
it,
right,
it's not
yeah,
awesome. There were bad decisions made. There were bad decisions made here this night.
yeah. So this is where the part of a document that we have a little bit incorrectly, And so we were talking about how from the alcove outside, in order to get back in, you have to go through three different doors. And Nancy said that she was pulled through one door. Now, that's probably, just like maybe bad memory or something. Or like not realizing like how far you were going, or the doors were automatic opening doors. So maybe like she just remembers one door being actually open.
Yeah, because the two doors going into the lobby from outside, the one that's the big red one over here from outside, and the main entrance door right here, those are automatic doors. So maybe, but the
Right.
stairwell door near the elevator is not an automatic door. It's an actual, you have to open a door.
Right. So that could be where her interpretation that there was one door came
Yeah.
from. Now, up until a couple of days ago, we were under the impression that the outdoor interaction and the stairwell interaction were two separate things, because Casey saw them come back in from outside, from what she assumed was outside, and back into the lobby. And so we were like,
Mhm.
okay, then the stairwell had to have happened at another time. Now we're gonna read
Mhm.
some screenshots.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a picture of what where the bar was. The
Yeah,
seating would be where
and
you
the
were
only
sitting
yeah
over here.
and the only difference was where there are chairs here, with, you see the backs of the chairs. Basically the viewpoint here is the front door. If you're standing at there's a big area between the outside door and the door into the lobby, so there's like an area there. And then this would be where you're standing at the door into the lobby from out in the outside area. The two chairs that you see their backs, that was a couch. There was the table in between, and then there were chairs on the other side when
Yeah,
we were there. So it was, I think, in fact, you can see the couch in the back section they were just swapped. Like these two setups were kind of swapped when we were there. So I was sitting on the couch with my back to the door, the front door.
got it. So they came in and went past you, and that's how you saw them.
Yeah, after I saw them go out.
Right. And see, this is where we had it written down. Like, witnesses reported that Nancy and Elliott came back inside from the front doors and went to the bar, not the stairwell. This happened later. And I'm going to correct myself. That was wrong. Right? No.
But it was
Casey.
wrong because of what I said. But we figured this out the other day.
Right,
So
right. So let
yeah,
me
do you
read
want me to
real
read?
quick
Okay.
the screenshots. And oh, yeah, you can read them. Go ahead.
Okay.
They're your
So
words.
yeah, so I was not, this was my, and this happened, I think, this was not long after the event. So this was not recent. These text messages were from months ago. I
Uh,
was not at the bar. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think these were early September, like before I sent my but before anybody sent their testimonies to the police. But it was like after Nancy cut us off, but before the police report, in between, I
Okay.
think.
Okay. I wasn't at the bar. I was out in the lobby, which I just described to you and showed you. I don't have any idea how much anybody had to drink. I was not at the bar, so I have no idea how much anyone had. I did not have dinner with either of them. So that, and also I wasn't drinking. I do not drink, so I had nothing to drink. And when they were leaving, so then when they left the bar area, I was facing the bar, so I could see them coming. They were holding hands. It was clear she was not being coerced. She was not being dragged. And this is just what I saw. And they walked across, because the bar's up over here. They walked across the lobby and up and past me on my right side. And then the front door was right behind me, and they went outside. So
Yeah.
that's what I saw when they came through.
Yeah, you
It was
mentioned to me that
clearly,
you turned around. Yeah, that you
yeah,
saw them. Yeah.
yeah. And there was somebody sitting in the chairs across from me, and I was like, did you see that? Somebody who knows both of them. And I said, did you see that? And he said, you'd have to be blind not to see that. So like it was
Yeah.
but I wasn't concerned for anybody's safety, because Nancy was laughing, he was smiling, like seemed completely consensual to me, them going outside. So the idea that she was dragged out of the lobby and paraded around to people, they didn't stop anywhere. They just kept walking. They were not walking especially fast. Everything seemed normal.
Right.
And then they went outside. And then when they came back, I didn't actually see them come in from the outside. Again, my back was to the front door, but I was kind of sitting like, a little sideways. And I did see them come from behind the couch, which again is where the front door was, over to the bathroom areas, which was over to the left side beside the couch. And
Yeah, let me
then,
go back to the map real quick. Yeah,
yeah,
so you can see the men's
yeah, so the
restroom.
bathrooms, right. And so I perceived from what I saw that they were coming back in from the outside
Right. But
because
see,
we,
if you look at the map, you can see that where it says main entrance door, and then when it says elevator, right in between
mhm,
that there is a hallway, and so they have to take that hallway to go to the stairwell. So whether they
right,
came from the door or from the stairwell, it will still look the same to you.
the
So
same path.
right,
Yeah. So I thought they had come in from the outside because it was my perception at the time that the outside incident and the stairwell incident were two separate incidents. Just because I was like, well, there really wasn't a lot of time and I saw them and they were together. And in Nancy's original story, I don't know if it's in this letter, but in her original email to me, she said that after when she said no and he stopped, that he ran off by himself and that she was still that they separated at that point, but I saw them come back to the lobby together. So they were together, they went to the bathroom, they came out of the bathroom area and went back around on the left side of the couch toward the bar. Her hair was totally fucked up, there was dirt on her pants, she was tugging at her shirt, but they were together and nothing really seemed awry other than it was clear that something had transpired between them, but again, they were together and everything seemed fine.
yeah.
And then Nancy, and I think I said, I'm not sure, it's not in the screenshots, but then they
Let me
continued to
see.
walk toward the bar. Yeah, they continued to walk toward the bar. She stopped and upon seeing my husband who was leaving the bar and coming out toward where I was, she and John hugged, and Elliott went on toward the bar. After that, I never saw either of them. I didn't see either of them again until the next day.
Okay, so here's a question. Why did Elliot leave Nancy after the stairwell when she was found? And this is the
He didn't.
answer. What
He didn't.
what Casey just said is that what we just realized now is that okay, did you clarify that part, Casey? That we
Yeah,
thought
so
there were two.
yes, we thought there were two incidents because I saw them together, and in her story, he ran off and left her, but I saw them together. So we thought it was two separate incidents, but it couldn't have been two separate incidents because they came back together after midnight. And from that point forward, when they came back into the lobby, Elliot went on to the bar, Nancy stopped and hugged John. After that, I don't know where they went. Nobody seems to know where Nancy went, but Elliot was with other people the rest of the night and getting text messages from Nancy, and they didn't see each other again. According to both of them, they did not see each other again after that.
Right.
So
So what we're
it had
saying,
to happen, but as one incident, and they came back to the lobby together.
right, they came from the stairwell
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, what I perceived is outside because they would have to take the same path and I didn't see them coming from all the way. I just saw them as they passed over this way. So I perceived it as coming back in from outside, but it
Right.
wasn't. It was them coming from the stairwell.
Right. And after that, we have both Chad and Ben looking for the wallet with Elliot. They never separated. And another thing I want to clarify is that this is when the conversation between Ben and Elliot happened. It happened after the stairwell, not before. People are under the
Right.
impression that Elliot asked if he could hook up with Nancy before the stairwell. No, that did not happen. The conversation went like they brought up the point that they were being cozy, right? That
Mhm.
Elliot and Nancy were cozy, and that's when Elliot says, yeah, she's trying to hook up with me, but I know she's
Mhm.
married and I think that's wrong.
Mhm.
And Ben gave his opinion on that. And he said, yeah, neither of you could consent anyway. You need to go to bed. And
Yeah,
after looking for the wallet, Elliot went to bed. He never saw
right.
Nancy again.
Right. Can I clear up something that I just saw in the chat? Okay, so they did go outside. What I missed is them actually coming back inside and going to the stairwell. That's what I didn't see. Again, my back was to the door. And then when they came back to the lobby, they came back together from the stairwell. And somebody in the chat also said I need to disregard the letter written by the person who found Nancy. So no one found Nancy.
Also,
Someone
that
ran
person did
into
not write a
Nancy.
letter. That person did not write a
No,
letter.
that person did not write a letter, but nobody found Nancy. She wasn't left at the bottom of the stairwell. Someone ran into her nearly an hour later. Okay. So no
And
one
that's
found her.
right. And that's what we're trying to make clear right now by this part. They the incidents, yes, we were wrong. They did happen all at once. They went outside, they went to the stairwell, they came back into the lobby. Nancy
Together.
engaged with people together, right? They came at the same time. Elliot did not leave her behind. They both came out of the stairwell, went to the lobby, hung out with other people. Elliot hung out with other people. Nancy met with other people and appeared to be fine. She did not appear to be hurt. She did not appear to be distressed from
Mhm.
what we've seen so far.
And
So
again, this is just what we witnessed. This is what I witnessed. I saw it myself. This is my husband. He saw her and they hugged. She came back with Elliott. They were together after the stairwell. And the reason that we know it was after the stairwell is because they didn't see each other again after this. They couldn't have. Elliott was with other people.
right, right,
And Stace and Nancy was with witness one
yeah, that's
later,
correct.
right?
Yeah,
We don't know where she was in between, but she was texting Elliott, so we know that happened.
right. Okay, and here we go. So there is no stairwell footage because there's not a camera
Right.
on the stairwell, and that's correct. And that is another part that we really need to clarify. Even if the only footage that we have, that the police have, is from the lobby, generally speaking, those are facing the door for safety
Mhm.
reasons, right? Hotels have cameras pointed at the door. And so what they will see is what you just described. They will be able
Yes.
to see them coming back in together.
Yes.
If if you
Absolutely.
see,
Now, we
right,
haven't seen the footage. We haven't seen
we
the
haven't.
footage, but we were right in the main part of the lobby. We weren't anywhere. Presumably, it would have been on camera that they came back together.
Good. All right, we may come back to that later if we have more comments. We're gonna move on to the next section, which is
Sure.
why why did the CNC consensual non-consent conversation happen? And Nancy claimed in part of her letter that Elliot is the one who told this to people, but that is not true. All right, here we go. On Tuesday, July 29, 2025, around 8 p.m., Nancy emails Elliot a statement. Some parts are similar to the letter that you, Casey, and I, and some other people got the night
Right.
before, which was Monday night.
Mhm.
But there were some very specific parts of that letter that were different. And I did not have that email until this March. All right.
Yeah.
Because I had assumed they were the same email. So I never asked for a copy. But when I saw it, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
because
hey,
this was actually left out of my email entirely. She
right,
never mentions any kind of cock appearance at
right.
all in her email.
So,
And she never mentioned it to me in text messages. She never mentioned it to me at all. That doesn't
right,
mean it didn't happen. I'm just saying she never mentioned it.
right. And so that's where we are coming from. Like, we were hearing different stories from day
Right.
one. From and I'm telling you, this email was sent to Elliot before Nancy spoke to him. And that
Yes.
is important because Patty and Jay have claimed that Elliot manipulated Nancy's memory, but on the first phone call. But these
Yes.
memories came from Nancy before that phone call.
It did. And this is really important. And I want to make this super clear. So the reason I was involved in, and it says that me and John talked to Nancy, and then me and John talked to Elliott. The reason that was happening is not because I wanted to be involved. The reason that was happening is because Nancy asked. Nancy asked, and I wanted to help my friend. Okay. So um, we spoke to Nancy, and then before I spoke to Elliott, I spoke to witness one because I was trying to determine what Nancy told witness one. And then we spoke to Elliott. When I was on the phone with Elliott, he asked, should I reach out to Nancy? And I said, no, you should not reach out to Nancy. If she wants to talk to you, she'll reach out to you.
And she did.
And she did. And then I talked to Nancy after we talked to Elliott, not immediately because she was on a stream. And so she called me after the stream, and I told her how it went. And I told her that Elliott asked about talking to her and that I had told him no, not to contact her. So if he didn't contact her, that's why, because I told him not to, because that seemed reasonable to me, right? Which, I think we can all agree that would be the most reasonable thing in a situation like that. And she said that she would email him. Now, she didn't tell me when, but she emailed him that same night, not even an hour later.
That's right. So here it says this was Tuesday night at almost 8 p.m., which means that Elliot and I were actually in the ACA meeting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "Hey, Sarah, I just sent you an email. Feel free to read it and message me. Here anytime after." She is asking him to message her. Then he
Mm-hmm.
says, "Thank you. I'm in a meeting and I'll read it in full as soon as I'm done. Would you prefer a text or call?" She says, "Either one." She said, "No rush." Blah blah blah. Anyway, so this is after 9 p.m. because after the meeting with the ACA, he went to a meeting with NaNoCon where they were discussing this situation. So that one
Again,
was about an
no
hour.
cover up.
Right.
No cover up, right? No cover up.
So, anyways, when his meeting ended, Nancy and Elliot talked on the phone for 2.5 hours. And this corroborates that the email was sent before she had any contact with Elliot about the incident. And remember, Elliot only found out a couple hours before that he was being
Yes.
accused of anything. When he
Yes.
when he sent Nancy that text message Sunday morning saying, "I remember hitting your head on the wall," that's what he was apologizing for. He thought they were both shoving each other against the wall passionately,
Yeah.
and he thought that he pushed her too hard, and then he pulled her away. And it's like, "I'm so sorry," and then whatever continued to happen.
Yeah.
But he was under the impression that they were engaging consensually and that he accidentally hurt her, and that's what he was apologizing for on that text message that morning.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that this is in the document at all, but it was in my witness statement that the next morning, I know you mentioned that he had texted Nancy. John and I ran into Elliott in the lobby when we were getting coffee right before we were going to our table because we were tabling. And we ran into Elliott, and he mentioned, I asked him how he was feeling because I had seen he was pretty trashed the night before. So I was like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" and and he was like, and he said that he's like, "Rough night, I think." He said, and he mentioned that he had fallen down the stairs, and he showed me bruises. He showed both of us bruises on his forearm. And so we didn't know at that point that we didn't know anything about anything. We just assumed Elliott was drunk and fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
And so he had mentioned to us that he fell down the stairs. which then eventually matched part of the story that Nancy told me, was that they were shoving each other and they tumbled down the stairs. Those are the words she used to me, tumbled down the stairs together. And
Right.
so, yeah, so I knew before I knew
Pretty much.
anything happened, I knew before anything happened that Elliott had fallen down the stairs and had bruises on his arm. So that also happened that morning. And I don't think that's in here. It wasn't really relevant to this, but it is, I think, relevant generally.
Yeah, I don't, because I think we've avoided putting anything from Elliot in here because like
Yeah,
there is enough wording from Nancy herself, and that's what we're
sure.
focusing on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so continuing to the conversation, then they talk on the phone for like 2.5 hours, and so this is where, okay, see, Saturday, March 14th, that's when I was forwarded the copy of the email that Nancy sent Elliot. That's when I found out that this part was included in there, which I'd never seen because it
Mhm.
wasn't included in the email that you and I got.
Again, before they spoke,
Right
before
before
they
they
ever spoke.
before they ever talked to each other. Now
Yeah.
she said this was Tuesday, July 29th, and Nancy says, "Hey, SR, I wanted to connect with you about the incident over the weekend." Now, I this was a very long email, very repetitive of other stuff that we've seen, so I removed that part to focus on the main parts. And then right here is when it talks about this part. All right, like listen, there is a um the conversation that Nancy says, his cock also made a very brief appearance, to which I will spare you the details. And now, and that there was nothing that was consensual. And if you think about it this way, why is she sparing us the details of that part? It's the most important part if you're going to try to show that this is a sexual assault. You have to describe it. As hard as that might be, it has to be described because it's important. Nancy describes things like his eyes being black, there being a gasp. She also doesn't describe anything about the statement that she gave the police, the investigators that morning. All she
Mhm.
says is, "I gave a statement and I told him I wanted to handle it myself." So why is she not giving details about that part, about those parts? What was she asked? Was she asked specific questions? Like was she asked about Cox making appearances? Was she asked about her shirt being pulled up or ripped up? Was she asked what was she asked? Why are there no details about that? Did she ask for an investigation or did the investigation happen later because of something else? Right? That's something that I want people to consider, to think about. So, all right, now we're gonna get to, since there are no details, since details were spared about how the cock made an appearance, we are gonna have to cover that part. And this is why we've been so pushy about keeping Nancy's privacy, guys. And I hate that it makes us seem like we're slut shaming or anything. But no, these are the facts. If that's missing from the letter, then we need the actual context. And so it says, "I almost feel like I had asked you to make it to take it out." The cock, right? I said, "Remember your cock making an appearance, but I felt so drunk at this point, I don't remember much of the details. I feel like I had asked you to take it out because some points of the night were turning me on." I know this part I cut it out because it was too long, but what it says is like, I don't remember if that was before or after uh, the head injury. And here's my question: why would it be after the head injury? Like if it was an alleged push with malicious intent, why will Nancy ask Elliot to pull out his cock after that? And before that, it also doesn't make sense because she tells the story as them walking into the stairwell and immediately being pushed down the stairs. So I don't know. It's just parts of the
It
story are internally inconsistent with each other.
Well, there's also some confusion about what happened in the stairwell, obviously. And Nancy even says in one of her messages, like, Elliot and I are the only people who really know what happened in there. But when Nancy told me about hitting her head, it was part of she fell down the stairs, and as part of falling down the stairs, hit her head. Other people were told that that her head hit against the wall when they were like kissing. And
That's what I was told.
if you hear somebody else say it, he just grabbed her head and slammed her head against the wall. So there's a lot of we're not really sure what happened with the head. But I do know that she did go to get her head checked out Wednesday after the event. She did go, and she did not have a concussion. She just had some swelling. She did get it checked out. So, and I encouraged her to get, hey, if your head's still really hurting, maybe you should go. And so she did. She went to the hospital, and she got her head checked out. No fractures, no concussion. And that's not to say that it wasn't bad, right? Just saying that's what she told me.
Yeah. So, anyway, so the next part of her letter says um, that people were telling her husband that she liked men to rape her and that she knew where that came from. She says, I remember telling Elliott during one of our calls that I help women on my channel through their sexual trauma by suggesting that they read dark erotica books in the genre of consensual non-consent. I do not recommend doing that. That is something that a therapist should be doing, not someone on the internet, by the way. But so I wanted to clarify that. How did the kink and BDSM conversation come about? And why are some people interpreting that they were engaging in kink? The reason that topic even was a thing is because Nancy brought it up. Nancy
Yeah.
brought it up. She actually brought it up to somebody, to another woman at the event at NaNoCon, and she brought it up to Elliott at the bar before the stairwell. And
Mm-hmm.
during that conversation at the bar, Elliott told Nancy he will not engage in any kind of kink without sober consent. And he was not
Sure.
sober, therefore, he was not going to engage in any of that. Now, this is important because even if Nancy convinced him to do something rough later, he had already said no. He already said he wasn't willing to do that. Now, getting somebody more drunk and then taking advantage of that, that's a different story. And from what I've seen, I don't see any indication that kink was happening in the stairwell. Shoving each other, that's just passionate, normal, typical vanilla hookup. All right. To me, the way it's been described to me sounded like two teenagers making out and, mm, pushing each other against the wall and kissing and stuff like that. Um,
I mean,
the,
to me, it sounded rougher than that from her descriptions of it, but it sounded like I don't know, like 50 Shades foreplay kind of shit. Like it didn't seem like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't serious. Seriously CNC BDSM
yeah,
kind of shit from what she described. And I know that the descriptions have been
so
described
different.
incredibly emotionally. But like, and the choking, right? Like that's not even that uncommon. Like that's
It's
you
not.
should never do it. You should never do it drunk. You should absolutely never do it drunk. And you shouldn't do it with strangers, right? But yeah, that's not even that big of a deal. Like
Right, but
it's just not.
yeah, it's not necessarily part of kink. It's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
Like asphyxiation can be used as an arousal uh thing. Yeah.
And it is dangerous. Like I agree that it can be dangerous. I mean, there have been people that have died from doing stuff like that. So but you can consent to things like that. The idea that you can't consent to any type of kink thing or to consensual non-consent or to choking or to anything, the idea that you cannot consent to those things is just generally, I'm not talking about this situation, is not true. That's
It's
just
not.
not accurate.
You can consent to euthanasia, which will 100% kill you. You can consent to it. So just say it. Okay, moving on. So this part of the email is also part of the email that Nancy sent Elliott. And this is another part that was not included in Casey's email and my email and so on. And so, again, this is not to shame anybody for their kink interest. There are so many people in the community that are into kink, and that is totally fine. Totally fine. All right, so the email says that she may have reacted more positively in this moment because consensual non-consent is a strong kink of mine, and this probably turned me on. So this is another instance. This is the first instance of Nancy bringing it up. Yeah, what's
I
up?
think it's important. I think it's important to continue on, which you might have picked this might have turned
Oh,
me on in the moment, which you might have picked up on and thought was okay to perform. And so this seems to indicate that this was a consensual interaction. She was showing that she was interested, willing, enjoying it, and he picked up on that and was responding to that. This shows a consensual interaction.
yeah, that's true. And then there was like more conversations. Nancy confessed this to several people, included Elliott himself, Helen, Bree, Glenda, and discussed it on the Apostate Sisters channel with Patty, which is something that in the very first stream that Jay Bundy did, Nancy says something. I'm sorry, Patty says something like, my sister is not into BDSM and has never been and has not performed there or something along those lines. And so we are just showing here again, this isn't to shame Nancy. This is to show that those statements were false. Now Nancy's
Mhm.
talking to somebody else and she says, yes, I'm very much into consensual non-consent and agree there are steps to take. The rest was irrelevant. This is the recording that Nancy and Patty did on their channel 1 week after NaNoCon. And in this video, Nancy and Patty admit discussing the topic of consensual non-consent at length. And Nancy says that it can be watched at tinyurl.com/kink coach video. It's short, but I don't think the sound will work the way I have it set up right now. So I'm not going to play it.
Okay.
But anyways,
That's fine, but it's there. You can go see it. And all this is to demonstrate is that the narrative idea that Nancy was not into this, like the narrative that's being spread that Nancy was not into this, not interested at all in this, and it's so completely outside the realm of Nancy's personality is bullshit. It's bullshit. Nancy said so herself to multiple people that night, other times in video publicly. So that's just not true. It's just not true. Now,
yeah.
were either of them able to consent to this kind of stuff that night? No.
No, like, but this is different. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter whether that was involved that night or not. It's just like
Right.
in the letter, in the streams, in all of that, it's being played as Nancy was this girl that was not at all interested in any of this kinky stuff, and being interested in the kinky stuff is perfectly fine. Own it, girl. Own it.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine if she's interested in this. It's fine if she's not. But the reason that anybody is saying that she was is not because we're making that up. It's because she said it.
Right. And it
So
came
you
from
guys have to
her.
contend with that. That came from her.
Right. She's the one that introduced that part of the conversation into this. It
Right.
wasn't brought up by
Nobody
anybody else.
Right. Nobody just made that up as an excuse for what happened. That
Right.
did not happen. Nancy has said she's into this. Maybe she is, maybe she's not. I don't know, but she said she was.
Right. Okay. Now the let me look at something super quick. Okay. Sorry, I had like this. The way this is set up. Why is it being weird? Okay. Uh, this part is about the consent, whether she gave consent or not. And now the letter frames things as there being harmless flirting between them. And Glenda's statement on Drew's post was that uh, that is not what she witnessed. She said, I genuinely almost got up from my table outside to intervene on behalf of SR because she was so aggressive and handsy with him that he was turning his head to avoid French kissing. Later, they left together hand in hand, so that we have more people seeing them leave hand in hand. Every indicator of going to enjoy a consensual experience together. And that she texted Arden at that point to something to that effect, and feeling relieved that it seemed to be mutual and not just Nancy pursuing one-sidedly. And then this is where Glenda talks about Nancy also expressing her sexual desires and private information to Glenda. We're not gonna go over that, and we'll spare you the details.
Well,
I
you
guess.
can read it. You can read it here or on Glenda's Facebook if you so wish.
Yeah.
Or actually, it's not Glenda's Facebook. This is
Drew's Facebook post. Yeah,
Drew Beckius's Facebook post. Yeah, you can go find it.
right.
It's the Flying Monkey one.
And another thing that has been brought up a lot regarding Tsunami and Kyle and PC is that they are sexual assault survivors, and that's why they've spoken up. I think every woman that Nancy involved is either a sexual assault, sexual harassment, or rape survivor. So, and here we have Glenda admitting that herself, that she is a rape and sexual assault survivor, multiple incidents. Um, then Arden and Dr. Ben come in and they basically say, yep, my eyeballs saw the same thing because we were sitting at Glenda's table. Uh, and for these tiny messages right here, a couple lines on the post, Arden had an entire misogynistic, transphobic stream of several hours made about her, showing a lot of her private stuff that she would prefer to leave behind. And it's fucking disgusting. And yes,
Mhm.
Glenda, thank you. There are so many different, like, Glenda summoned them, I summoned them, I don't even know anymore. Nobody summoned anybody. People came to their own of their own free will and added wherever they
and
needed
and
that.
there and there are people who saw things who also don't want to be publicly
Right.
spoken about or involved. So the people who have chosen to come forward and say, this is what I saw, they did that on their own. There are other people who have chosen not to do that. Nobody has been coerced to do it. And if anybody wants to say what they saw, they can. And if they don't want to say it, they don't have to. But the fact that several witnesses who were there have been completely ignored, have been shut out, have been had comments deleted and all those other kinds of things. Those are people who were there and saw things that are contrary to the narrative being spun. And it's really unacceptable to just completely reject information from a first-hand witness to
Yeah.
so that your narrative isn't destroyed.
Right. And here's another one that I wasn't even aware of. Dr. Ben says that Nancy was also flirting with him and Arden, and that he is often not socially aware of that stuff. I'm the same way, and apparently she was also flirting with me, which my husband noticed, but I didn't because I'm dumb social. Dumb social.
But
I don't know.
here's the deal. Nancy generally is a flirty person, and that's okay. Like I
Yeah.
loved that about her. I love that she's like sexually open, and like that that was one of the things I thought was just super endearing about her, honestly, is because she was so, or is, I mean, she doesn't speak to me anymore. But that's one thing that I admired about her, was how open she was about those things. And I think that's fine. It's nobody's
Right.
trying to
And
shame her for that.
no, and like she and I had a little exchange to, what was it? I think it was Helen that was joking about me squeezing Nancy's boobs, and so SR took a picture of me and Nancy where I was like pretending to squeeze her boobs. So like, yeah, there was some like sexual sexual liberties or something. I don't know what you would call it, but like she was flirty, and I did not feel uncomfortable with it because like whatever level it was not anything that was making me feel uncomfortable. And like we engaged the whole time. We sat at so many of the speeches were with both of the sisters sitting next to me and hanging out, and like I didn't feel at all uncomfortable with that. But anyways, moving on. Okay, so that's part about that. um the stairwell. Okay, we need to talk about this situation. So on Saturday, um Nancy claims Elliot dragged her from, okay, we corrected this part, never mind. Okay, so this timeline right here is important. From Elliot's phone there was the following timestamps: right after 12:25 a.m., during the time that Elliot and Dr. Ben are looking for the wallet, Nancy is texting Elliot. And keep in mind that this happened after the stairwell.
Yes.
After the stairwell. Now look at these messages. SR says, Nancy, you and I need to talk, and sends a kissy face. And Nancy says, I am in the same spot. We don't know what spot that is.
But we know
But
it's
that,
outside. We know it's outside and not at the bottom of the stairwell where y'all think she was left.
right, at 12:28, oh, he's like, okay, I'll find you. I need my wallet. There he goes. He's looking for the wallet. And Nancy at 12:28 says, come outside. After the stairwell, Nancy invites Elliot to come outside. And Elliot's like, oh, please come out, come to the front lobby. And then at 12:55, the person that found Nancy, as everybody keeps calling it, runs
Ran into her at the
into
elevator.
Nancy. Right. Next, it's between the elevator and the hallway that goes to the
Mhm.
lobby. So this will be visible on cameras more than likely. So that was at 12:55, and then at 1:01 a.m., Elliot is like, "Are you in the lobby?" Which means that they never met
They never saw each
after.
other
They
again.
never saw each other. Um, so then right here we have Chad describing the timeline of how we figured out what time exactly Chad helped Elliot look for the wallet. He said, I was out of fuck, but I remember helping Asar look for his wallet. He was drunk, and I had him empty his pockets and gave him a pat down. After
Mhm.
we failed to find it in the dining area, he was like, it's okay, man, it's just stuff, blah, blah, blah. And Shad told him to get some sleep. And this is the time. It says, I know I went back to my hotel shortly after looking for the wallet. I apparently plugged in directions at 12:38 a.m. So it would have been about 12:15 that he started looking for the wallet with Elliot. And again, Elliot and Nancy were texting during that time. Ben was with Elliot. Shad was with Elliot. They were looking for the wallet, and this is where the conversation of Elliot saying Nancy wants to hook up with me, but she's married. I think that's wrong. And Ben saying, "Yeah, you guys cannot consent with how drunk you are. Go to sleep." Elliot goes to sleep. All right, this, if anyone wants to look at it in the document, is basically going over the timelines. I see Elliott says, so I actually remember that message, and I'm pretty sure we had already separated and did not get back together at this point. Then Ben confirming the times. We don't need to go over that. This is the person that met with Nancy at 12:55, clarifying that that's the exact time that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these parts are about him pushing her down the stairs, and like Nancy does not make it clear what she believes Elliott's motivation for the unprovoked as alleged assault was. And these are messages where Nancy was basically saying that she thought the fall was accidental. The first one is between Ambush Apostate Seth and Nancy. Seth asks, "Did you talk on video?" And Nancy says, "Yeah, I was as accurate as I could be in my description. The only thing that he disagreed with was that he uh, didn't push me down the stairs. If that's actually the case, then he likely was trying to shove me into the wall, but I fell and lost my footing on the steps." And then between me and Nancy, and she says, "He and I spoke about it all. I remember his palms out, but it could be that he was maybe pushing me into the wall in some weird sexual thing." And that's when I went down the stairs. And then after she hit her head, things were unclear. And then she tells me, "I think it boils down to whether he actually had intentions to hurt me or not. And I don't think he did." All right. Okay, these parts are not important. Like everybody can go and look at the thing if you need to. Okay,
I'm not
these
sure.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know if, I think, you wanted to talk about the back cruise here?
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So the part Nancy is basically saying, "I felt obligated to warn women that I felt close to at the time to ensure that they kept their guard up around him. But Nancy told several women that it was safe to share a house with Elliott in Austin the weekend of August 16th at the Bat Cruise. And she asked me to tell the ACA that she wanted Elliott to continue to work with them and attend that specific event. So I asked her about it, if what she wanted to tell the ACA. And she's like, "Thank you. Can you please pass along my decisions and outcomes with the ACA? I'd like him to still be involved in all of those things as scheduled. As far as I'm concerned, this is dealt with." And
Yeah,
he
that's what I had
doesn't
mentioned earlier. So this is just receipts from what I had mentioned earlier when we were talking about accountability.
Right. And then she says to me, "Thank you for having such an amazing heart. I feel you understood where I was coming from the entire time. This is the goal I wanted." So we were respecting her wishes.
Absolutely.
She continues to talk about the ACA. Okay, here's a message where Nancy and Elliot are texting, and Nancy asks Elliot if he's going to Bahacon or just the Bat Cruise. And he says, "Just the Bat Cruise. What about you?" And she's like, "Neither. Unfortunately, I think I used up my 80s convention cards for the year. But please do rub my online wifey's tits when you're at the Bat Cruise, as long as Helen consents. Tell her it's from me." Now, sure, it could be a joke. That's fine. But the fact is that she's having this conversation with Elliot 2 weeks after this alleged sexual assault, as people are trying to frame it. And she's telling him to grab another woman's titties. As
At
a
a
joke or
different event.
not, I don't know. Right, at a different rate. And then these messages, the next thing, are between also Elliot and Nancy, and they are after the Bat Cruise. She says, "Great show on Sunday, blah, blah, blah." The back cruise looks super fun. I'm bummed that I missed that one. So she wanted to go there. She wanted to go to that one. And he's like, yeah, it was great. Um, the whole weekend was amazing, blah, blah, blah. So this is to show that she was aware that he was going to be at these events in person. And on August 22nd, she and I exchanged the very last messages that she ever sent me. And I was telling her about Elliott. I said he did great, and he didn't drink at all. He just smoked his vape. Now, there is a video by someone that said that Elliott was falling down drunk at the bike cruise. That is not true. You can ask so many different witnesses that were at the bad cruise. Elliot did not drink at the bad cruise, which was it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Um, a lot of us hung out with him most of the days. During the official bad cruise event of that weekend, he did not drink. I went out with everybody on Saturday night. Elliot came over to where we were hanging out. There were two separate events because of age limits, and I had my teenager, so we went to a gaming thing. Elliot came over there. He was not drunk. He had not drunk anything. I talked to him about it, and he's like, "No, I'm just vaping." And he looks super fucking chill and high as fuck. But I mean, high as fuck as in like chill, stoned with weed, that kind of high. And he was not drunk. He did not drink. My husband and I dropped him off at his hotel door. He did not drink that night. He drank one time at the back cruise weekend. At the back cruise weekend, when everything ended on Sunday night, everybody went home. Some people actually flew out. Some people went completely to their actual houses, and several people went to a rental house where they were staying with Elliot was supposed to be staying at. And that is where he drank a couple of drinks. Some people didn't even see him drink at that house. They were like, he drank? I didn't notice. Because after everybody went to bed, he was doing the dishes. He was not falling down drunk. So there you have it. We're going to skip all this part. The parts about Seth, I'm not going to go over that. I'm simply going to point out that on Friday before the alleged incident, Seth Henderson told Nancy, "I hope you don't party too hard. You don't party too hard." And then Sunday, after Nancy gives her statement to Elliot Cantor, she tells Seth out of nowhere. He doesn't ask anything. She goes to him and says, "I didn't keep my promise. I ended up partying too hard." And then she sends a bunch of pictures, which include photos of her and Elliot. I don't know. That is just something to point out there. I'm not gonna go over this stuff. These are conversations between Seth and Nancy that you guys can look. Like Seth has a notarized document, and you can download it from the website too.
Yeah, there's a downloadable section in the website. It's got Nancy's letter. This whole thing is downloadable, and then Seth's letter's downloadable there. But you can read through this at your own convenience if you so choose. Again, it's what happened at NaNoCon2025.com.
Correct. All right. So we cover the camera footage and that it will include images from the lobby. They will have timestamps. They will see Elliot walking around with Ben, with Chad, whether Nancy and Elliot came in from from the front or from the stairwell, where they went after that, and all of that. You don't need to have footage of the stairwell to put together what happened. Now, the marital struggles part is, there are certain parts that are kind of important that I did want to bring up. Like 2 days after Nancy's report, after the alleged incident, no, this will be 4 days after the incident, 2 days after she told Nancy, she told Helen, they're talking about how Nancy says, "I feel my situation sort of led me to Elliot's arms in the first place." Clearly, I'm needing more. Then to me, she says sort of the same thing. Thank you and I appreciate that. Like I said, I think my marital struggles have pushed me into Elliott's arms in the first place. And then we agreed to talk about the situation, her marriage stuff later. Um,
And I don't think any text messages with me are in here at this point. This is her marital issues are something that Nancy had spoken with me and John about extensively, repeatedly over the course of months. Even at the Ark Encounter, she was at the Ark Encounter with her husband. We saw both of them because we knew her husband also, and we saw both of them, and she had spoken to us. She kind of gave us an update about it then, but she had spoken to us about it before. And so this is, and I think she had also spoken about it that night in the bar to a few different people. So this was not something that was unknown. It was an ongoing thing. This was an ongoing issue.
yeah, for sure. Then part of the letter, Nancy says, my talks with Elliot soon started to fade off as I began to not trust him. And that she started talking to other people. And now, when Nancy's husband was in India, she spoke to Elliot pretty much every day. And in the following message to Ambush Apostate, Nancy says that she stopped trusting him. Nancy says why she stopped sort of trusting him. And it goes, Nancy says, I'm fine. Now I mean that Elliot can go fuck himself stage. Haha. And Seth is like, why? Like, how did that happen? And she says, after talking with him for a few days, I concluded that he's just kind of young and dumb. It helped me get over my attraction to him. I just have a weakness for men with long hair. I'm sure you've noticed. Seth is like, oh, is it the long hair? And then she's like, yeah, I made the connection recently. Elliot, Aaron Ra, Dan Vask. And I was like, oh, I think I have a type. And this one sent on August 13th. So 2 weeks
You know,
after NaNoCon.
And you know what's interesting is we were just looking at conversations between her and Elliott from August 19th after this. So if she's in her fuck Elliott stage, she's still, that's what she's telling Seth, but she's still talking to Elliott regularly. And the text message chains generally show for most of the times where they're interacting, she has initiated that interaction.
Yeah, that's true. But like this shows she's telling in the letter that she stopped trusting him because I guess I don't know exactly why. And the go fuck himself thing is not because of any alleged incident. It's because he's young and dumb, which is I don't know. Okay, here are more messages that say Nancy and Elliot talk until Nancy left the community. On August 20th, Nancy tells Elliot if he ever wants to drink, smoke, and vent to let her know. But in the
Yeah,
letter, she accuses him of using drugs and alcohol and insinuating that he's an alcoholic or has a drug problem. Why is she encouraging him to drink and smoke?
and again, this is a week later. This is August 20th. The message she just sent to Seth, it's like, I'm over it, fuck Elliot, was on August 13th. This is August 20th, and she's talking to Elliot.
Yeah. So these are a bunch of messages in August 20th, August 21st. They're talking about random things, Bible, religion, blah blah blah. Let's see what else. Um, he's like, "Thank you. I really enjoyed the crap out of those two. I would love to get some more time this week and next just to hang out."
Oh, my bad. This was still Seth. Is this
Oh
still
no no
Seth?
no no! These are between Elliot and Nancy.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they're talking to each other. Oh, sorry about that. I should have clarified that.
No, I thought it was between Nancy and Elliot. Then I was like, wait a minute, maybe this was between Nancy and Seth. Anyway, sorry, my bad.
No, but
There's so much
yeah,
shit. There's just so much shit. It's hard to keep,
I know. I'm
everything.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
And she's like, for what it's worth, you're really funny. Thanks for cheering up my day. Like they're having a great time. She sends him on Thursday morning a message uh, with a link to a morning show that she was doing. And she says, I'm in the middle of this right now, and it's already more exciting. He's like, oh my gosh, what a fantastic group of people. And she's like, I really love this community. I didn't realize how much I needed this. And this was the day before cutting contact.
Yes.
Now, Ambusha Posted and Nancy are discussing her husband and her attraction to Elliott. She talks about her husband troubles. Um, she says that it's been almost a year since she's had uh, any sexual interaction with her husband. Um, he encourages her, and then blah blah blah. He said this like, you have some needs he's not meeting, and it's understandable. And Nancy says, yeah, and I really don't want to be a cheater. I'm barely holding it together. In 10 years I've never faltered. Elliott came the closest. And that is an important sentence right there, because I know people are going to say trauma response, trauma educated, go get some trauma education. This is not the way um, somebody will describe, and I'm not telling how exactly everybody should behave, but the fact that she calls it close to cheating says something about the interaction, right?
And this doesn't stand alone. I mean, you've seen all of the other screenshots, right? This is not based on one thing she said and it can be misinterpreted. There is a
Right.
pile, there's a pile of shit, that a pile of evidence that has led certain people to this conclusion. Not just one thing, not just a potential trauma response, none of that. There's a literal pile of evidence.
Yeah, and here's some more. Same between Seth Henderson and Nancy. Seth says, I get it, my lord, you got yourself a pickle. And she says, see my dilemma now, how a young, cute flavor like Elliott caught my attention. Cute flavor. Like, I don't know, but um,
I
that's
don't even want to know.
not
I
in
don't
life.
even I don't even
Well,
want to know what flavor Elliott would be.
no, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, yeah, and this other message next to it, it says GE and KC know a lot about this, confirming what I
So,
said. She had talked to us extensively about her marital issues.
about the marriage, now I've seen people claim that this means you knew about the cover up, the alleged assault, blah blah blah. No, this was specifically speaking about the marriage troubles
Yeah,
that you and
about their marital
Gleason,
troubles.
yeah, the marital troubles.
Yeah, well before NaNoCon even happened. So,
Right. And then Nancy says, see how I found myself in a questionable spot in Nashville. And yeah. So basically they were talking about how she did try to engage in something in Nashville. The Nancy safety. All right, we can super quickly go over this. The Nancy safety thing was, there was a group that Patty made in late August, which had a few people, including Ember and Helen, and that's the only people I'm gonna name.
but nobody that was at NaNoCon, AJ and I were not in it.
Nobody that was at NaNoCon was in that group. All right.
Except for Patty. Patty was, I don't want to be misconstrued. Patty wasn't NaNoCon, although she was not around that night.
Right. She went to bed at 8 o'clock, way early in the
Mhm.
night. I know because she told me good night, and she told me she was going to bed specifically because she had an early morning. So anyway, the so there was that group, and during the same time, during the same few days that Patty created that group, we heard some mentions of it. We didn't know what the context or the content was, right?
Right.
All we knew was that there seemed to be some type of safety problem with Nancy. And so you went and you asked Patty, and can you tell what that was?
Oh, yeah, so I found out about this safety group, which and I had found out, I think, was this the day that her husband found out? I found out about some concerns about her safety. It was the day or the day after her husband found out. And so I tried to message Nancy. She did not respond, because despite the fact that some people want to say that we pushed Nancy out, we did not. And are there some screenshots here that show that Patty provided screenshots, I think, or Patty didn't provide them, but I think she said some things about how Nancy was either choosing to leave the community or her husband was forcing her to leave the community. No one in the community forced Nancy out. That never happened. But so I tried to message Nancy. She did not respond. So I messaged Patty, and I told her, hey, I heard that her husband found out, and I'm worried about her. She's not answering any messages. Have you talked to her? And she said, oh, yeah, I've talked to her. She's fine. I said, and she's safe? Because there had been a couple of other people that had mentioned how Patty herself had said that Nancy was not, maybe not safe. And that was in the morning when that happened. And I talked to her in the evening, and she said, yes, she's safe with her husband. So that was an interaction, a conversation that I had with Patty.
Right, and then you relied that to me, and I would
Yeah.
say I had no reason to believe that that would be false. So,
Yeah, because that there were a lot of people who were concerned about Nancy's safety. So when I spoke to Patty, I was like, "Hey, Patty says she's safe and fine." Like, so that's all I knew, is that her sister was saying she was safe and fine.
right, and so here we have Patty telling Seth that I'm trying to figure out how far his control is reaching right now. She's been fighting for her autonomy in her marriage for years. Seth said he knew a little bit. And then um, Patty says later in that same morning, he said, I got this very concerning message from Nancy and her husband this morning. Will you please tell me if she seems to still be able to talk to you? And it's a message, and then there's a screenshot of a message between Patty, Nancy, and the husband. And Nancy says, Patty, for the foreseeable future, I won't be able to be on our YouTube channel. Any messages you need to send me can go through this group chat. Um,
And I think that's a really important message, because it's Nancy telling Patty, I will not be able to be part of this for the foreseeable future. No one pushed her out. Like, no one from the community pushed her out. If there was an issue between her and her husband where her husband was like, you can't do this anymore, that's between them. It has nothing to do with any of us. None of us betrayed her. None of us pushed her out of the community. Nobody told her to go away. No one.
right. And this right here was on August 23rd, which was the morning after we were all suddenly cut off.
Blocked on
And
social media, except for me and John and Drew. That was
right,
weird.
so like Nancy is already saying she won't be able to do stuff on YouTube. So she was
Right.
not pushed out by anybody other than potentially her husband, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
That's between them.
right here, Patty says, okay, Seth says that the cutting off was very abrupt, and Patty says, yes, very abruptly. I had harsh words for her husband's swift reaction to control her device. And this was a couple of days after that first message. Now, none of us saw these messages until this year when that letter came out. And we were all
Yeah.
like, what did she say about this and that and that? And Seth sent me a whole bunch of screenshots, and that's when I saw them for the first time. This was part of the group, okay, which includes Patty, and they're talking about whether where can they send Nancy for help. Helen says she's in Florida. Amber suggests transportation methods. Um, so then after a week after contact was cut, Patty relies a message from Nancy to that safety group. And uh, Patty says, it sounds like there's some very open conversations happening at home. She knows that she has a lot of support here, and that's definitely helped her. She sends love to everyone. I also told her that her husband's first reaction to lock down her communications was a bad choice. She knows you all know his controlling ways now, and that's all of you are ready to help.
This is super
Now,
important. I am sorry, I need to foot stomp this. This is super important. This
yep,
demonstrates, because this is after all of us were cut off from Nancy.
yep,
And after all of us were cut off from Nancy, she still knew she had our support. There are no stories or conversations about any kind of betrayal. That all came way later with no receipts, because it didn't happen. It did not happen. None of us pushed her out. None of us betrayed her. We were all there for her, ready to go get her. I would have driven to her home to get her and bring her back to mine. Like, we were all ready to help her. And these messages right here from after that with Patty
yeah.
confirm that. So I just want to say, here's receipts that is bullshit.
And that Patty herself has been
Yes,
misconstruing the information that she's given, saying that we turned on
we
Nancy
turned on her.
and she cut us off because we turned on her. But that's not the case.
That's
If
not true.
right, like this safety group, which again included um, we showed that it included Ember, Helen. I know Maya says that she was in it. We just said in the chat that she was in it as well. There were several people involved in that chat, from the people that are being yelled at by the people that don't believe uh, that we're just showing facts.
Yeah, and another receipt to show these. You can actually expand these if you click on them, I think. Yeah, so this is actually my last interaction with Nancy. And she says, I'm glad to see he hasn't been kicked out of the ACA. I said, I don't know the outcome. I was not involved in that part. I let people involved in the ACA at the time handle that. And she said, you and John were the ones I truly trusted the most with my story, and thank you for that. And I said, I'm glad you felt that and we didn't let you down. And she said, everything worked out better than I could have hoped for. That was the last interaction that I had with her. Everything worked out exactly how she wanted.
Yeah, and here's my last interaction with her, which was the day that she cut everybody off. Now, one important thing to point out is that that morning, before the 11 a.m. message that you see right here, we had a morning show, which used the Java and Jugs show that we used to do together. And I remember Patty and Nancy were both at that show, and everything was fine. Then Nancy and I came to the DMs and we're talking to each other. And I say that I was glad that I was able to help, because she told me, I really wanted to thank you again for everything you've handled for me over the last few weeks. Handled for me. She asked me to handle stuff for her.
Yeah.
Which the leather swaps things up and says that I took it upon myself to do things for her. And this is Nancy herself telling you that she asked me for help. Now, I said that I was happy to help. I care so much about everybody. I didn't want to see anybody else hurt further. We talk about Elliott over the bad cruise weekend. I say he did great. He didn't drink, blah, blah, blah. He was chill. I told her I hope she was feeling better. Then she's like, "Oh, hey, love, I emailed you viewer access to my content creator contact list. It needs to be updated soon, but this will be a good start." And now this is important right here. Nancy still trusted me that day. Why would she cut me off? We were talking about a project that we were working on together. She gave me access to it and talked about this will be a good start, a start to something that we were going to be working on together.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it.
The the turning point was completely when her husband found out.
Yeah.
Right? We were all
Which
working
was
on moving
later that
forward.
day. It was
Later
later
this
that
same
same
exact
day.
day. Yeah,
Yeah.
later this same day. And then the narrative changed completely after that.
Yeah. And then
After
we were,
Nancy was gone, and by her, well, I would say by her own choosing, but I'm not sure that's accurate either. So
yeah. And then, I told her that I was blown away by her kindness, and that I hope that we will have a good friendship, and that I hope that she knew that she could trust me. Anyways, this was so the Trainwreck AJ part is this is the part of the document that I gave a couple people, including Michael Beverly, and I said, please don't give this to Jay. And what did he do? He gave it to Jay, and they made it public. But again, these are all. This includes screenshots from Nancy's letter that did not exist until February 2026. So this is not my police report, my police testimony, not report. Um, this shows that Nancy gave me her phone number. Um, okay, this one part I do want to clarify because Jay Bundy and everybody are claiming that I told Nancy I hope she was hurting. And it's being taken in the context of I say that she was physically hurting. That is not what happened. Now, this is a screenshot from when I told Nancy, like the very first day that I found out, I hope Asara is hurting. That is a good thing. And we were talking about how my conscience had hurt when I did something bad in the past. And we talk about that. And I said, my conscience was hurting. I hope his conscience is hurting too, because that means he's going to do the right thing. And when the police investigation closed and we were told that there were going to be potential charges against her, and then she tried to reach out to Helen that day.
on her
And so, like
YouTube channel,
2 days
right? Like
later,
left a
right,
comment. Yeah.
left a comment and then called Helen. But Helen
Mm-hmm.
was in a call, so she did not take the call.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really upset. I'm not gonna lie. I let my emotions take over and I sent her a message. And in that message, uh, everybody can read this right here. I basically told her that when she told me about the incident, we agreed that Elliott's response would show his character, whether he was a flawed human or just manipulative, and that now this applied to her and whether she could do the right thing and told the truth. I told her that she'd left a lot of pain and suffering behind, and that she shut out people that tried to protect her. And then I said, I told Elliot this when I first heard your claim, and I will say it to you now. I hope you're hurting, not because I want you to suffer, but because if you feel the weight of this, now the weight of this is the mental weight of it. It means that you still have a conscience. I don't see that right now. I hope I'm wrong. So there you have it. That is the context of why I said I hope she was hurting. I meant it as I hope you do the right thing. I hope you come out and clear this up. So, uh, anyways, so we've gone over this stuff. Um, and just to clarify, I texted Nancy that, all right, because she had given me her phone number. I texted her. She did not respond. Her husband texted me. He did not have my phone number before. Either he got it from her phone or she gave it to him. Whichever, I don't know. Doesn't matter. He texted me first. And some of the stuff he said was kind of rude, and I was mad, and I responded in kind. Was that nice? No, it wasn't cool. I regret that thing. But the only person I owe that apology to is Nancy. I don't know that apology to anybody in the community other than Nancy. And that will come at some point if she ever decides to speak to me again. I will apologize for that part.
Yeah, but the idea that anybody contacted her husband to tell him things is bullshit.
It is. It was one text message. It included some screenshots to show that I wasn't making shit up. That's about it.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't
Um,
contact him first.
right, I didn't.
Right.
So these are just timeline thingies. Nancy asked me and thanked me for contacting people. She said, let's see. Then we were talking about her, uh, the thing where she was being called person A, which is framed as me contacting random institutions, and it was not. Here is a screenshot of our conversation where I let her know that she was being called person A, and Patty was being called person A's family member. So Nancy
And it
was
was specific.
aware of that.
She was aware, and it was specifically because she asked for quiet accountability. She wanted privacy. She did not want her husband to find out.
Right. That's correct.
And so that's why it was done that way, to protect her privacy.
Yeah. Okay. No, I had some screenshots from someone. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, no, I was trying to see that somebody was sending me some screenshots to see if I could show them. But I think we might have to do it as a separate show. Yeah, we're coming up on 2 hours. All right. So moving along. Now here she is. Can you pass along my decision and outcomes with the ACA? Blah blah blah. So she's asking me to do things.
More receipts of accountability and her asking us to be involved and do things.
And she's like, this is the goal I wanted. So there we go. This is when she asked me to talk to Patty. This was August 5th. This was the day that they were recording a video. And she's like, hey, AJ, I wanted to reach out to you again about the DSR incident because you seem like the right person to talk to. I was wondering if you could speak with Patty. She and I haven't talked for days. People keep telling me that she's out for blood and that she was going to cancel staff, that she removed their interview from their channel, which included SR, without asking Nancy's permission. So that she's displeased with her decision to forgive him. And now people take that as like, oh, forgive him for all the things that he did do. And it's like, no, their conversations were their conversations. We don't know exactly what was said in those conversations. What was he taking accountability for exactly? The things that he remembered, right? And the things that he did not remember, and Nancy filled in those blanks. He was saying they must have happened because Nancy said they happened. So, anyways, Patty wants more accountability and consequences. And Nancy is like, I'm sure you've spoken to her, but is there any way you could reach out to her again? Um, and then she says that they have a recording at noon, but that Patty should be done after that. And my question here has always been, they had a recording together. They were going to be on camera together. They could have waited until their guest left the room and have a conversation. Nancy did not feel comfortable or safe talking to her sister directly, so much so that she asked me to speak to her. Did they have a falling out? Yeah, they hadn't spoken to each other for days. And that's fine. Sisters can do that. I haven't spoken to my sisters in months because of bad stuff they did to me. Um, but I'm just saying the point here is that their relationship is being used as an excuse for Patty sharing all of Nancy's private stuff. And it's like their relationship was not what is being portrayed.
Hey, AJ, can you go back up to the date of this? Someone in the chat asked, when did Nancy start warning people that Patty was acting without her consent?
This was August 5,
August 5th.
like a week after NaNoCon. They hadn't, she said, we haven't spoken for days. A week after NaNoCon.
Now, what has happened since Nancy's husband found out and Nancy blocked everybody from the community. What has happened between her and Patty since then? I don't think anybody really knows. I certainly don't know what's gone on since then.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing to point out is that we have seen certain clips of Jay Bundy admitting that they did not have Nancy's consent to share her story earlier on. And the last screenshot we've seen of conversations between Patty and Nancy is around the same time that the police investigation closed. We've never seen anything after December saying of Nancy saying, "Here's this notarized document, share it for me." You know. All right. And then more screenshots of Nancy telling other people, said Sambo Chappelle state that Patty is very upset and that she, let's see, this one says Patty tends to go off the deep end sometimes. She'll blame entire corporations for the wrongdoings of one person, and I don't agree to that. I don't agree to that. Okay, again, the ones about she didn't want things to go further. This is another instance where she thought somebody else made a video about the situation and she asked me to contact that person. Now, the charges against Nancy.
Nancy was really trying hard to keep this quiet. She really did want to keep this quiet.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't mean there was a cover-up. It just means she didn't want it to become a public spectacle. Those who needed to be told were told. Those who needed to be involved were involved. And the rest of the community was not included in that because it wasn't anybody else's business.
Exactly. Like, Nancy didn't owe anybody her story. Elliott didn't owe anybody his story. I didn't owe anybody their story, but we were forced into this position. There's people threatening, harassing, intimidating witnesses. Like, where are your receipts? We've provided receipts. Where are your receipts? And if you don't show the receipts, look what I did to AJ Woolley. I'm gonna do to you what I did to AJ Woolley. That kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah,
That's why we've come out.
speakers from conferences that are not NaNoCon have been contacted and harassed. Like, this has gotten to a point of insanity. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
Very much so, very much so. And it involves so many people that it would be irresponsible not to show these things as much as we haven't wanted to do it. Now, the charges against Nancy, August 22nd to August 30th, 2025, according to the screenshots in Nancy's safety section, Nancy's husband seems to have found out on August 22nd that something had taken place. That's when Patty claimed that he cut a contact off with the community, or we don't know exactly. On September 1 to September 2nd, Nancy filed a report with the Tennessee Park Rangers, and that investigation was assisted by the Dixon County Sheriff's Office.
And I think this needs to be clarified because there has been some confusion as to why the Tennessee Park Rangers. The event is held at Montgomery Bell State Park in Tennessee. So the legal authority at the state park is the Tennessee Park Rangers. So because it would have happened in their jurisdiction, they were the first point of contact. Dixon County is where the state park is located. So that's just some, because I know I saw some comments and some issues. Well, like, why was it with park rangers? That's weird. That's why.
Yeah, that's actually the Tennessee. I don't know. It might be actually federal wide law to where if it happens in a state park or a federal park, it has to be reported to the park rangers first.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
if you go to the to the sheriff's office, they will tell you to go to park ranger.
First, yes. That doesn't mean it cannot include I mean, obviously, you can see that it included the Dixon County Police or Sheriff's Department, but the first reporting, and it has to all go through who has jurisdiction. And in this case, it would have been the park rangers because we were on Montgomery Bell State Park.
Right. So anyways, we submitted our testimonies between September 3rd and 5th or so, and the case was closed on September 10th. And here we had a group chat between yourself, Casey, Bree, Helen, and I, and Elliott was in that group chat, and he says, hey y'all, I feel like you deserve an update. The detective sat with the DA today, the district attorney. They have reviewed the evidence and statements already and even looked at video footage. They have concluded that the video does not match her statement, and they are considering pressing charges against her for filing a false police report. They closed the investigation and will not be pressing charges against me. Then he told us to think about it, and if we encourage him, he may file charges. I encourage him to do it. You, Casey, told him if he wanted to move on, that was fine. That if he wanted to drop it, that was reasonable. But if he wanted to sue her, that it was also within his right to do so.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I told him, because it's ultimately what happened here was up to Nancy and Elliott. Those are the two people that really should have been and were leading and determining things. And so it's not up to me to tell someone this is what you should do. So like, I understand. I basically just supported whichever way he wanted to go with it, given the situation. If he wanted to drop it, fine. But like, Nancy filed a police report that was not accurate, and there is evidence that determined that her police report was not accurate. And she was fine submitting that police report and potentially sending him to prison, ruining his entire life. So I thought that, not that I want Nancy to be charged. I didn't. But I would understand if he did, but he didn't. And that's important.
Yeah. And here again, he says that his plan currently, if his views matter at all, is that he wouldn't even press charges of false report. He would rather this matter be as done as possible. And then this was September 10th, right? Last year. He says, as crazy as it may seem, I still just want safety and peace for everyone. I want Nancy to continue doing shows and things. I just want this to be put to rest once and for all. Yeah. Anyways, there's been streams stating that there was no video at all, and that there were no charges offered. Here is an email which I had to redact
That's his
lawyer's name, but it is from Elliott's phone. You can see it in the bottom. It says Elliott Martin. Elliott, I emailed the detective last week about getting something in writing. He was supposed to forward me an email from the DA. As for the video, no, he asked for a copy of the video itself. And she says that it is unlikely that they will provide it because it's not technically discoverable at this stage in the process, especially since it's a closed investigation. And now she references the charges. The DA, was only going to pursue charges against her if you requested him to. So that was, now people misunderstand this sentence right here. It is right there. It says that if Elliott were to request that, they would have pursued the charges, meaning that they thought there was enough to charge with false reporting. And she says if they wanted to impact that, they could have a conversation.
And just for everybody's edification, I think that he can do that up to a year following the closing of the investigation. So I think he has a year for that, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't say that here, but that's.
Right, yeah. I'm gonna quickly point out some of the screenshots. I can't pull up the screenshots because it will take too long. But somebody was telling me to mention some stuff. That there were some concerns about Nancy's letter, pointing that there were several things that indicate she doesn't, that the letter may be a cry for help, sort of, in a way of her relationship with her husband. There was a comment of like, um, describing how unhappy her sex life was at home, and that she alludes that there was a high control nature to their home life, um, because she feels very, what is the word I'm looking for, like free when she gets to be away from home and away from her husband and at these community events.
Mhm.
um, and then she says that the atheist community felt like a home where I could create the family life I never had, which is a little bit telling of like how she represents her home life. You know, like she doesn't have the home life that she desires, and the atheist community seemed to sort of provide that for her. She also talks about the that this was the first time she was traveling without her husband, which is kind of odd for people who have been together for like 15 years. Um, I mean, I guess not odd, but you know, maybe telling. Um, anyways.
I don't think that he was at Free Flow in Florida with her.
Oh, okay, you're right. We did talk about that. You're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
because Free Flow in 2025,
Yeah,
she was there with Patty, and I did not see her husband there at all. I mean, he didn't really participate. Well, he did not really. He didn't participate in atheist events at all. He wasn't an atheist, but he would come to events and then he would go do other shit while she did her. But I don't believe he was at Free Flow.
gotcha. Well, now here's another interesting part of the screenshots that my friend sent, which are all part of Nancy's letter, her own words. She says that after she told him everything, after a few emotional days, he convinced me that I absolutely needed to report this incident to the police. And I think that's really important because she says absolutely needed to and convinced me. It sounds quite like what happened with the other report that she made to NaNoCon. She was convinced by people that she needed to report it. And in fact, it was reported for her to the point that she felt like she had to say something. She had to tell them something because somebody else had already told for her. So again, we have people manipulating her decisions, like convincing her to do things she didn't want to do, especially coming from a husband, is interesting.
But it's not the people doing the manipulating are not the people that you've been told, which I think all of this demonstrates quite well.
Yeah. And so, anyways, in my document where I basically did my own closing statement, stating that seeking appropriate justice for alleged victims considers different factors. First of all, don't disbelieve people. There's one thing where people always say believe the victim, and I am all for believing victims, of course, which means don't disbelieve when somebody tells you something. Don't say, oh, that didn't happen, or are you sure? No, believe it. But also make sure that if the person is asking for justice, for restorative justice of any kind, then you have to know exactly what happened. And Nancy put together what happened with the accountability that she wanted and the punishment that she wanted, and was happy with it. And again, that this is how investigations come to be, right? They take victim statements, they take witness accounts, they take photos, videos, text, emails, and any other form of evidence that may be around. And if the case turns out to be worse than it was reported, the punishment is going to be worse. If the case turns out to be less than reported, the punishment is going to be less. It doesn't mean that, we are like not believing a victim.
Right.
Um,
I think the idea I do, and we all believed her. We all took everything she said seriously, and we all acted on her behalf, for not on her behalf, but like at her request,
at
right?
her
We
request,
all
yeah.
acted at her request, and everything was for her. Like literally everything. And this but the problem here is there is evidence to the contrary. And that's the problem. If there's no evidence, because there's not always evidence of sexual assault, right? That's very common that there's not evidence of sexual assault. And I think the responsible thing to do is to take that seriously and believe them. In this case, that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. The problem is there's evidence to the contrary. And
Right.
that cannot be discounted. It can't. It's not right to just discount evidence to the contrary.
Right, that's right. And yeah, okay, again, this goes over the parts of what it meant when Elliot told people to believe Nancy. He had no memories of certain parts of the night, and it wasn't an admission of guilt. It was just a plea to believe whatever Nancy was saying because he
Mhm.
didn't know what that was. He didn't remember what those parts were. Now, this document does not deny that individuals got hurt. We know both of them got physically hurt, but how that happened actually matters. Then we have Nancy saying that she was tipsy and that Elliot was extremely drunk, and she initiated an encounter that could be portrayed as sexual because her interactions with him in the lobby were of a sexual nature. Like she was kissing him and very handsy. So that's why we were calling it a sexual encounter. Um, but she initiated that sexual encounter with somebody who was already extremely drunk by her own admission. If it had been the opposite and we had a tipsy Elliot and an extremely drunk Nancy, and a tipsy Elliot initiated with a very drunk Nancy, we wouldn't be having the same conversation, right?
Right.
Um, okay. Then we're talking about here about some legalities of consent and how you cannot legally give consent if you are at a certain intoxication level.
Mhm.
Um, and again, Nancy initiated the sexual encounter in the lobby. Nancy asked Elliot to pull out his cock in the stairwell at some point. Um,
And this is all
I
based on witness testimony and Nancy's own words.
right.
I just
Even
think it's really
when
important that that's clear.
right, and it's interesting that in Nancy's description of her letter, she doesn't state what was she asked when she told Elliot Cantor um, that something happened. Like when she went into that conference room and she gave her statement, which she doesn't say was it recorded, was it on a tape, was it on video, or was it just written, was it recorded in any type of way. Nancy doesn't mention that, so ask yourself that question. um, she also says that she gave a statement. She doesn't say what that statement entailed. She tells us separately what she wants us to hear, but she doesn't say what she told Elliot Cantor.
Mhm.
And she also doesn't describe any kind of questions that she was asked. Was she asked whether I don't know who initiated the kissing? Was she asked that question? Was she asked if her clothes were removed, ripped, pulled up, and what was her answer to that?
Yeah, nobody
We
knows what happened during the investigation that happened at NaNoCon. Nobody knows what Nancy said. Nobody knows what Nancy, if she accused anybody of anything. No one knows what happened in that except for the people involved, and that is private. Those are private investigations, right? So it's not up to us to know. We don't know if she said in that interview that there was a
right,
sexual assault. We only know what she told us. That's all we know.
right, but that's the interesting part for me, that the letter describes paragraphs and paragraphs of very specific details.
Mm-hmm,
However, the part about her statement is one sentence. Basically says, I gave a statement and
mm-hmm.
I told him I wanted to handle it myself. That's all she
Yep.
said. And I think that's an important thing to point out, because we don't know what she reported. We don't even know if she reported it as sexual assault originally. She does mention the shirt being pulled up, and the cock making an appearance in the leather, but those were things that were not mentioned to certain other people.
Right.
Um, and I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just saying that there is an inconsistency in how we we perceive it because of the way it was reported. But
Mm-hmm.
she did describe that she felt she asked Elliot to pull out his penis, and she bragged to Brie and Helen about having touched it and how sizable it was. She also initiated the kissing in the lobby.
Here's
Um,
here's here's what I think is the most important thing to remember is that not necessarily who initiated what, although that is important when it comes to like consent. However,
Protested
consent can be revoked at any time. And Nancy's story
anytime.
has always been when she told him to stop, he stopped.
Right, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because in this letter that came out in February, yes, people can change, people can regain memories and stuff like that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in Nancy's original statements, and I imagine in her police report as well, it was reported as one consent withdrawal. There was a single one, which is where you mentioned it, right? She said
Yes.
that she told Elliot that it was too much,
Mm-hmm.
and he stopped and ran
He
up the
stopped.
stairwell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
he
what, and
stopped.
that has been her story that she told him no and to stop one time
And
and he
all of
stopped.
us, as far as I know, all of us were under the impression that consent withdrawal was respected.
Yes. That's what we can go by here. There's no evidence to the contrary in that case. It seems that she told him to stop and he did.
Right. And so, like, this document is kind of to show that there were so many different versions from day one. And that is important, because um, when you're taking somebody's statement, that person needs to have a credible story. And I'm not saying that Nancy's story is not credible. I'm just saying that there are just so many different versions coming at the same time that we've never been able to tell which one was the correct one, because Nancy is not here to tell us, oh, well, you know what, I say that because blah, blah, blah. But we were all under the impression of what happened is what she told all of us individually.
Yeah,
Um,
but in the one thing that did remain completely consistent is that she told him to stop and he did. That remained consistent the entire time. So, consent withdrawal was respected, and it appears that everything else, when you put all the pieces together and all of her words to various people, that there was consensual activity going on, whether you agree that it's okay or not. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, well, I think that that's too risky and that's dangerous and I don't think you can consent to that. Well, you can, right? But you don't have to like it. But if somebody else does, that's really not your business. I mean, we can all agree that irresponsible behavior happened here. Two drunk people doing stuff they should not be doing while they're drunk, right? But what one thing that has remained consistent is she said stop, and he did.
Yeah. And Cole mentioned that Nancy did not withdraw consent when the physical intimacy began, and that's true because she did mention that when they were kissing outside, she laughed it off. However, now we know that there was also kissing inside before the
Mhm.
kissing outside. So Elliot could have interpreted that as like she was fine with it because they had already kissed inside.
Mhm. And some people may wonder why is like because Patty kind of has initiated a lot of the public spectacle of this, right? Even though Jay Bundy has been the face of a lot of this, Patty has been behind driving it. She's been contacting organizations and speakers and all kinds of stuff. And you have to ask yourself, like, if Patty knows uh, any of these things, right? Maybe she doesn't, right? So that's what I asked her. I spoke to Patty when I found out that Nancy was filing a police report. When I found out Nancy was filing a police report, there was a lot of stuff I already knew that I was like, why? Because why is she filing a police report? Not to protect Elliott, but because the accusations weren't true. And
Right.
so and so I spoke with Patty and I was like, maybe there are some things you don't know, right? Because I know that Patty all along wanted Nancy to file a police report. And so I thought maybe there's things she didn't tell her. So I was like, okay, let me talk to Patty. So I talked to Patty and I was like, there may be some things you don't know. And so I really gingerly, because I did not want to violate Nancy's privacy and Nancy's trust in me, I kind of like gingerly was like trying to gauge, and Patty told me that she knows everything. And I asked her, well, if you know everything and you know that he did not intend to harm her or
Right.
violate her consent, what is going on? Why is she filing a police report? And Patty said she did not care whether he violated her consent or anything like that, or whether he intended to harm her. Her he Nancy was harmed. Nancy got hurt, and that's all that mattered to Patty. So not Nancy, Patty has been on a vendetta for this
But
from very early on.
we saw the messages from Nancy herself saying that.
Yeah, so like I think that that's why Patty is doing this, because she thinks that Elliott needs to pay. And she literally told me that she does not care if it's true. She does not care if he intended to harm her. She does not care that he did not violate her consent. She does not care. And
Yeah.
that's a problem. I have not spoken to Patty since then, since that conversation, because it disgusted me.
I remember like you making a very, very clear point about that to me before.
I was so
And
upset by that. Like, you don't even care what's true. You just want to ruin this person's life because your sister got a bump on the head and like had a sexual encounter that freaked her out. Like, I don't know. That pissed me off. Sorry. I'll let you continue.
yeah. No, no, it really is because it does show that that Patty had told that to so many people. She apparently has told similar things to Seth, to you, to me, to Nancy. I remember I was the very first person that Patty called to tell that something had happened. And this was before she sent you the email. So you didn't know about this yet. But
Mhm.
I talked to Patty the night before and we talked on the phone. And during that phone call, that's when Patty was like, what's telling me already that she wanted to make a stream to, if I remember correctly, she wanted to have Elliot on the stream and kind of like corner him into telling the world live what he done, sort of
Mhm.
something like that. And now my first instinct, because I believed Patty, was fuck yeah, just burn it down.
Yeah.
But then I slept on it. I slept on it and I talked to Nancy the next day, and
Right.
Nancy did not want that. No, I was like,
Right.
oh, and then we calmed down, we chatted about it, we came to reason, and we were like, that's a terrible fucking idea. Let's not.
Yes,
and
we did
we
what
move on.
Nancy wanted, not what
Right,
Patty wanted. And what's happening right now, I cannot speak to what Nancy wants now because we haven't spoken to her in a long time, but uh what's happening right now is what Patty always wanted.
right, right.
Except for this. I'm sure Patty didn't want this.
Probably not. But okay, the next point I want to make is that there have been okay, let me see this. Secular X, which is not secular rarity. It is a different person. All right, please don't confuse the two. Clarification: Nancy warned people Patty was acting without her consent, and Patty has said she does not care what's true and only wants revenge. Do I have that right? Yeah,
That's what she
that's
told me in a
pretty
phone call. She
much.
did not she did not care if he violated her consent, and she did not care if he intended to harm her. All she cares about is that she was hurt
And that he was gonna pay. It was
and that
something
he was going
along
to
those
pay,
lines.
that
Yeah,
he needed to pay. That's what
right.
she said.
Um, and so another thing I've seen around is this sort of misrepresentation of Nancy being found, which led to people thinking that she was found maybe unconscious or something at the bottom of the stairs. That's not the case. Nancy ran into the person that reported it the next day on the hallway, which was close to the stairwell, but the stairwell was next to the elevator, which means everybody had to go next to the stairwell to get to the room. A lot
Right.
of us went on the stairwell because the elevator was so fucking slow. so I, so like I walked those stairs so many times,
Yeah.
but so people are going by the statement of this first witness that Nancy was what was the word that she looked traumatized, sort of, right,
Oh yeah,
when
when
she
I
was
saw her
found.
after, she looked disheveled. That she didn't look
Right.
traumatized. She seemed fine. She just was disheveled, like they had had some sort of, whatever. But it had not been enough time. But between the time when they went outside and the time that they came back, I did not suspect, and I'm just going back to what I was thinking, that there had been enough time really for them to like go anywhere and like get down to some serious business. I just thought that they
Yeah,
had had some sort of encounter. I didn't really know, but as I said, she had dirt on the right hip side of her pants. She was tugging at her shirt and her hair was all fucked up. So like but she seemed disheveled but fine.
yeah, like she went
She
and
was
chatted
still
with John and
smiling.
stuff.
She
Yeah.
chatted with John. Like, yeah, she did not seem traumatized to me. Now, that doesn't mean she didn't seem traumatized to someone else. Someone else interpreted something differently, but we don't know what happened because that was like 45 minutes to an hour later.
Right, and that is a really important thing to to show that between the stairwell and when Nancy met this first witness who saw her traumatized, there was almost an hour in between that time.
Right.
Almost an hour. And Elliot was with other people. We have text messages of Nancy herself asking Elliot to come outside. Like she said, I am in the same spot. And then she says, come outside, meaning that the same spot we can allude was outside and not in the stairwell. Also, there was the point that Elliot and Dr. Ben looked for the wallet in the stairwell and Nancy was not there. So Nancy was
Right.
not there during some of the time
Mhm.
that she should have been there, allegedly, according to her own timeline.
Well, and
Um,
they came back together. They came back to the lobby together. I saw it with my own eyes.
right.
Mhm.
And so, yeah. So, what I want to point out is that trauma can look different to different people, and people can experience trauma differently. It could be that it took her a little while to process it, and that maybe at first she didn't look traumatized. We don't deny that Nancy experienced
No.
something that night, right?
Mm-mm.
If you have an accidental fall, which leads to you being physically hurt, it's going to be traumatic. If you are feeling shame of any kind of social stigma for any type of reason, you're going to feel traumatized. If you have fear of your husband's wrath or the idea of being humiliated, that can all look traumatic to someone. Like I I have done things in the past that I was extremely ashamed of. And I was physically sick, even though it wasn't anything. It wasn't a traumatic experience of, like, say, I was in a car crash or something, right? It was something that I did to someone else, and my pain of having done that was so visible in me. Like, I was sick to my stomach. I was throwing up. I was shaking. I was sick. Like, you can be traumatized by something
Mhm.
you did. You can be traumatized by something someone else did to you, and it doesn't have to involve any kind of physical trauma. Just
Well,
pointing that out.
and she was very aware from the very beginning of what other people were thinking. She mentioned it multiple times in her initial email to me. It's been mentioned several times since that she was very aware of what other people would think, and that was she had awareness of that evening, when before anything happened, when they were walking outside, when they came back, what people thought they hooked up, and the next morning when people saw her, she felt like people were watching her and thought that she had cheated on her husband. Like, she was very hyper aware of what other people might be thinking, and she mentioned that in various mediums several times.
Okay. Yeah, somebody pointed out in the live chat, right here. Cole said that in the last screenshot that he was sending me, it says that Nancy was trying to protect herself from her husband knowing. She wasn't trying to protect her husband from knowing. And it is worded in that way. She says, trying to protect myself from my husband knowing. That's a
Yeah, she
straight.
really did not want her husband to find out. And that's why what may appear as a cover up to some was really just trying to make it not a public spectacle for her. None of this was done for Elliott. None of this was done for Elliott. And in fact, none of us ever threatened Nancy. None of us ever threatened Patty. And none of us ever threatened anybody. The only person, and I'll be honest with this, the only person I ever threatened was Elliott. When I first found out that very
Same.
first conversation, yeah, the very first conversation that I had with Elliott, well, actually, really the only conversation I had with Elliott about this until everything was done was the very 2 days later, right, when I found out about it. And I told him that, like, he needed to do whatever he could to make this right, because there was a line of people ready to burn his ass down. And so, like, and that's what I told him, because there were, I mean, there were so many women that were standing behind Nancy, ready to end him if that's what she said to do. And had she said to do that, that's what we all would have done. So I guess it's pretty lucky for us, given the evidence that has come out since, that we did not do that, because it would not have been warranted and we would have been wrong in doing so. But that's what we were all ready to do for her. But she did
Right.
not want this to be a public spectacle, because she did not want her husband to find out.
Because we've seen why. Bree is saying that it was never Elliot that Nancy expressed fear of when talking to her, that it was her
Accurate.
spouse. And
Yeah.
I was gonna clarify something. All right. The situation with Bree, where it's been said that I coerced her or try to silence her. Bree and I have agreed that it was kind of a misunderstanding between us. All right. Like, she had been pushed to the edge by Jay Bundy's streams. She'd been harassed and she was suicidal. And I spent that weekend trying to talk to her off the ledge, basically, which is something that Maya and Helen and I had done before because of Jay's actions. And the reason I contacted Maya and Helen was because of that, because I was like, I can't handle this myself. They know Brie a lot better than I do, and they can do that. They can help me with that. And the idea that I tried to change Bree's story came from me correcting something that we had misunderstood, which Ben said. It wasn't something I said, it was something Ben said about the timeline. And it was that the conversation about consent happened after the stairwell, and Bree was under the impression that it was before the stairwell. So I was trying to correct that. And that's where it came to be that, hey, you're trying to change my story. And I was like, I'm just presenting you with information which may not be what Nancy told you, but it is what witnesses say.
Yeah. It's what the
And
timeline shows.
right. And the second part was me trying to silence her. And I actually have a screenshot when I was like, no, like you can tell. But if you talk about NaNoCon, that's what Jay is going to focus on, and he's going to use it against you. So everybody, including myself, have to be careful of our wording and what we state publicly, because Jay Bundy twists literally any word you say, and he's going to use it
Right.
against you. And that is exactly what Jay did. He used every word that Bree said against her, and that's fucked
Yeah.
up. That is fucked up. And I'm so pissed that he's still restreaming her stream that she took down because she did not want that vulnerable part of herself out there. So
And
let me just say, fuck Jayvan.
he's still using that against all of us to say that we drove her there, despite the fact that she has since said that it was Jay, and it's always been Jay. Even that day in the stream, she didn't want any of Jay's crowd there in the chat, and she said that Jay did this. And like, so I don't understand this whole narrative that he's trying to spin, but he's going to do that to us too here today, right? Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
So he's going to do the same exact thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I know Bree is saying right now, Jay and his friends have been harassing and threatening me for months to stop talking about this. So there you have
And
it.
but we're the ones doing a cover up. we're the ones doing a cover up. What he wants is he wants their narrative out there, and he doesn't want anything contrary to their narrative out there. Well, sorry, Jay.
Right. And again, I'm going to clarify this part right here, that there is no question that Elliott made a mistake of getting drunk in a public event. And
Sure.
he hasn't denied that part. And he's
No.
faced appropriate consequences for that part.
Mhm.
NaNoCon cannot act on rumors. They cannot act on Nancy's notarized letter. They just cannot. That would be illegal for them to do that, because the police investigation turned out a different way. All right.
Mhm.
And it, even though it doesn't say, oh, nothing happened, it just says there's not enough evidence to show something did happen. In that case, there are no charges against him. So so NaNoCon cannot act on this. All they can act on is the fact that he did get drunk at that event. And so the consequences he's faced for that is that he was removed from the volunteer position at NaNoCon. He was removed from speaking appearances at NaNoCon. He's had several interviews and stuff canceled because of the rumors. And he underwent therapy. And again, what type of therapy is none of my fucking business. It's none of your
Mhm.
fucking business. He went to therapy, and that's that.
And he was not
Um,
permitted to drink at the back cruise.
right, and he
That was
didn't.
another, yeah,
We
and he
clarified
did
that
not.
part.
Right.
Um, and again, the people need to look at this document and interpret it without bias toward gender norms. We have to consider who had a responsibility to a severely intoxicated individual, and differentiate allegations of sexual assault versus simple assault, and whether that even was the case, whether the harm that came from the encounter was intentional or not. And there is 35 pages and notarized. And it is on
That
video that
proves
it was
that
me that notarized it. I
that
did it
proves
online, and it
AJ
is,
did it.
yeah, right, yeah. But I did it online so that they could do it. Right here it says this instrument was acknowledged before me by the means of an interactive two-way audio and video communication, and I
Mhm.
was warned that it would be recorded, and so it was.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. There you have it. That's what. Um,
And it, just to reiterate, if anybody wants to review
yeah.
this document, Seth Henderson's document, Nancy's document, you can get all of this. There's also the video clip of Nancy saying she was into consensual non-consent. All of that, what happened at NaNoCon2025.com. If you want to go and review it yourself, it's all there for you to review yourself.
Okay, there I put it, and it also includes if you go to downloads,
Mhm.
you can download that thing that we just read, but it is the actual PDF file.
Mhm.
Then we have Nancy's letter, which you can also download and read yourself. We have Seth Henderson's notarized statement.
Mhm.
Um, then there's videos, which includes Trusty Ape reading. Now, Trusty Ape read the entire document, which we missed some parts because we didn't need to go over everything. But you can find that there in the NaNoCon safety video that we have. And we will include this video in the website once it is finished.
And there was somebody in the chat that was very disappointed with the lack of guns. So here's mine.
Oh my god.
I actually
I
didn't
don't
plan
have
that.
any toy guns. I don't have uh, any toy guns,
I
but
didn't even. This is here because John uses this doing crazy shit. I know there's all kinds of props everywhere because, I mean, you've seen John and Brocephus do their thing over here. So yeah, I did. I just saw that and I was like, wait, I know we have a gun.
alright. Okay, listen. You pull up the gun while I'm gonna sing. Pull it up again, and I'm gonna sing out of key a quick lyric so we don't get. All right, ready? You gotta go. Let's do this together. Pull your gun up so I can sing.
Oh, I have to pull my gun up. Hold on. I gotta
It's
pull my
the
gun up.
proper way. All right.
Sorry, I don't
Okay.
know. How do I hold this thing? Okay, I got my gun. What now?
All right. I'm gonna sing a very relevant song. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. There you go.
There you go. There you go. Like true mobsters.
There
Fortnite Nerf gun.
you
It
go.
does. It actually is an automatic. Like if you hold it down, but I think it needs batteries, and it's an automatic one. So yeah, like a true gangster.
And my turbo singing is forever immortalized right here. I apologize for your ears. I should have apologized before, but anyway. Okay. Does anybody? Oh, let me see. Where did they go? Dr. Kip had a question if we updated the document with the new information presented today, and I did not, simply because it was a notarized document. Maybe we can add to the website like a
Oh,
correction
the correction of the
of that
two
you
separate.
are,
Yeah,
yeah, and that
yeah,
is,
we can do that.
and that they, yeah, you can make a little statement yourself, and then
Yes.
we'll put it as an addendum.
We will.
To,
Actually, what we'll do is we'll leave what's there and then we'll just put like an asterisk and we'll add instead of deleting because I think it's
no, yeah,
important that
no,
it be yeah,
yeah,
we'll just add the additional information because that is something that we literally just recently figured out. I was looking at it and I was like, wait a minute, it couldn't have been two separate because the piece I didn't know is that Elliott was with other people. Like I did not know that he had been during that time. So, and that's one of the things that's important when you put all the pieces together and the timeline together, a story, not a story, the timeline
it's
like
it's
shows
a
itself. right? It presents itself. And so like that is something that you have to contend with. And so when what I perceived to be two separate incidents, like two separate times, wasn't. It was one. And so yeah, I'm totally willing to say I was wrong. My perception of this was different. And we can add and modify our story based on evidence. And that's what everybody should be doing. Unfortunately, that's not what lucky to not be Stevie. What's the one over here? A banjo-lele. I don't know where the uke is. I got John a banjo-lele.
Oh,
for
you gotta play it now.
No, I can't play it. I can't play it. That's John. John said neither can I.
Damn it. I was gonna say he needs to stand behind you and play like very somber. Lily.
Yeah, we've got all the toys over here. I've got juggling balls. I mean, there's just all kinds of shit laying everywhere. You know, I don't know. This isn't my area.
I need
but
props.
I did make
all
the
I
back.
have is a tiny stick.
Oh, I think I have. Where's your wands, babe? Are there wands up here?
Somewhere.
Oh, the wands. We had wands, but they're not up here. The wands would go well with one of my mugs today. I was drinking out of Not Today, Muggle Fucker. That's one of them. And then the other one I had is Don't Be a Salty
Maya?
Bitch.
Maya needs to see that one.
Yeah, don't be a salty bitch.
Don't be a salty bitch.
So,
all right. Do we have any more questions? If we don't have any more questions from the audience, I don't think I had any more too many other things to say other than like reiterate what you said, which is the fact that we never set out to say Nancy lied or Patty lied or anybody lied. The facts came out on their own based on what people saw with their own eyes, what they heard with their own ears, what interactions they had that night separately and individually. And this document put them all in one place so we could see all of these in a chronological order as best as it could be put because it was complicated. And so looking at facts and presenting those facts is not victim blaming, it's not slut shaming, it's not kink shaming, it's simply presenting what took place in the real world.
mm-hmm.
You know, that's all.
And the receipt and the receipts that go with that, and also demonstrates that everything that we're saying is based off of Nancy's words, and we showed you those too. And none of us wanted to have to show private information. That seems like a huge violation, and it would upset me if someone, it would upset me, and none of us wanted to do that. So there's more stuff that is not relevant that nobody needs to know. And we'll keep private everything we can keep private for Nancy's sake. What was shown to demonstrate what's true versus the narrative that's being told.
Right. And I think all of us agree that that Nancy doesn't owe any of us, not even us, anything, right? She doesn't owe anybody coming back into the community and speaking up or anything like that. But if she were to do so, if she ever were to come up and say, hey, you know what, my sister spoke for me, I didn't want this, we will understand that. Because it feels like what she wanted from the start, for things to be private. And right. I think it's a real shame that we were cornered into this position of there was so much harm being done in her name that we had to put this forward in order to prevent further harm, because the way things are being escalated and people making videos about Elliott raped Nancy, or that he tried to murder her, or that he's a drug addict, are just absolutely fucking ridiculous.
It's
And
despicable. Honestly, it's despicable. He's playing on people's emotions and he's trying to manipulate people using emotional sounding things. And I get that it is emotional. It's upsetting. The whole thing has been upsetting and was upsetting, even if it wasn't, even if we do go with it was an encounter that was more than what she had expected. She was shook by it, right? That's still upsetting. And so I get that there's a lot of emotions going on about this, and that's fine. But using people's emotions to manipulate them into this crazy narrative that's spun by this wackadoo guy over in a small corner of YouTube and then harassing people about it is just absurd. It's just absurd.
yeah, this is true. I mean, although there hasn't been any direct threats of like I'm going to do this specifically, is the incitement of violence. The calling for actual harm at the convention, including words, "Asar needs to go away very quickly." That sounded like a threat of yeah.
Well,
This mean
and
other
and and NaNoCon's not the only event he's threatened. So that they have threatened. They are trying to take down other events over this that have nothing to do with NaNoCon. Their stated goal is to burn down the entire atheist online community. Now, if you don't want any part of a community, don't have it. Create your own, whatever. Nobody gives a shit. But we're not over here doing harm to people. That's what you're doing. And you need to stop.
yeah, choking is not a kink. No, choking is not a kink, but choking is a sexual act. It can be a sexual act if it is engaged.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily vanilla, but it's
Yeah,
not
maybe not.
even that uncommon. It's maybe like mint chip. Like it's really it's not that far off, right? Like it's not a lot of people do that. So the idea that someone cannot consent to choking is wrong. That's just wrong. And
Yeah,
you may not like it, you may not understand it, but it absolutely is a very mild kink that a lot of people engage in. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you,
and
Glenda.
Glenda says, "Yeah, respectfully, you're wrong. It absolutely is a kink. It is dangerous, just like plenty of other activities human engage that have a risk."
Mhm.
Um, and
Well,
that the assumption that it cannot be done safely is also wrong. Yeah, that's correct.
yes.
Uh,
Well, I mean, just like anything, anytime anybody says that you can't consent to something that can kill you, yes, you can. People go skydiving, that can kill you, but there are safety measures in play that make sure that you're safe and you have a good time and you land safe and you're fine, right? Same exact thing. It can cause harm, right? Glenda put rack, risk aware consensual kink. So there are things that are risky that can cause harm, but there are safety measures generally in place in responsible interactions of that. And that's what is important. That's what's important. The idea that someone can't consent to choking is wrong.
yeah, and I can't remember. I didn't put it in the document because it's not like it's not in writing anywhere. And I'm trying to think whether it was Helen or Bree, but I think Nancy told someone that it was mutual, that she also choked Elliot. So I mean, it
Oh,
seemed to
I don't know
be
anything about that.
right. So like I'm not trying to put it in as an official part of the conversation, but maybe if one of them is listening, they can clarify that part. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I'm just trying to say that it can be part of a sexual interaction, and
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily to. Is it a kink? I don't know if it is necessarily a kink, uh, but it is not. It doesn't have to be part of BDSM or consensual no consent. I think that's what we're trying to convey.
Yeah. It's just a silly idea. It's just a silly idea that because someone can get hurt from it means it can't be consented to. That's just wrong.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but on Carve Block, you're gonna have to review the video again because we've already covered all that part.
Yeah. We've addressed that. We've
It's
addressed that. And
3 hours.
and honestly, ask for evidence of it. Ask for evidence of us harassing anyone to keep them quiet. Ask for evidence and see what you get.
Yeah, yeah, literally nothing. Um, okay, well, I think we uh covered quite enough. I don't
We
know if
did.
anybody else has any more clarifications that they need made. I'm trying to think of any other things that we need to mention, and I can't think of any right now. I guess we can always make more 100 more hours of streams, but that nobody's gonna
Please
watch.
no. Oh my God, please no. This has to be enough.
Okay. Uh, uh, yeah. All right. Well, thank you to everybody that's listened. Okay. All right. I've been selected to bring ladders and cameras to
Yeah.
the next events. Uh, but anyways, yeah. What I have to say is that we presented a bunch of information today. Um, did we include some opinions? Sure. You can do whatever you want with those. You can remove those and just look strictly at the information that we presented, and um, that you don't have to agree with them, with the information that we presented, right? But it doesn't make it untrue, and it doesn't mean those things were not said. It doesn't make this a smear campaign either, right? Because we're not trying to smear anybody. We're just trying to clarify the record, the lies that are being told about specifically us and other people in the community, the people that are being
Mhm.
harassed. And so, which, I mean, witness intimidation has gone for quite a long time now at this point of
Yeah.
us specifically. And anybody that doesn't want to stick their nose into it seems to be put into the flying monkey camp all of a sudden without any type of warning, and that's just
Right.
wrong.
Right.
So, um, all right, Casey, I cannot
Yes.
thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for helping me go through all of this, and you have some really good clarifications to make, and I think the most important message that we can take out of this is that it's complicated. It
Yeah.
wasn't a black and white thing that somebody could just say, like, okay, case closed, done, finish, out. And it was handled appropriately by the people that Nancy wanted to handle it,
Hmm.
right? The people that she reported it to, she felt safe with them handling it in the way that they did, and she was
Hmm.
happy with the result of how it was handled.
Hmm.
Now, after that, I don't know how she feels now, how things were handled from December all the way to now. I don't know that.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Nuance. What a concept. Yeah.
And AJ, thank you for really helping to put all the puzzle pieces together, because we all had parts of the story. We all had piece parts. Some of us had conflicting things, and it really did help all of us see the whole picture once it was all like put together, without any of the extra emotions and everything else, just the facts put together. And that, I think, really does help everyone see um, really what went on here. And everybody can form their own opinion, absolutely. And everybody can talk about it in whatever way they want to. But I do really caution people from feeding on others' emotions and manipulating them and convincing them to abuse other people and conferences and creators and people who are involved, people who are not involved. This has gotten extraordinarily out of hand. And I really think that everyone needs to um, review the facts and try not to get caught up in the uh, really outrage porn. I mean, that's what's going on, is outrage porn, and it's completely unnecessary. And it's normal to feel emotions over this kind of stuff. We all certainly have through this.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I really do appreciate and respect AJ for um, for helping us all put the pieces together, because that's what she did. And AJ, just so you know, check is in the mail.
My millions of mob money by cut. I guess
Checks in
I
the
have.
mail.
I guess I'll have to cut the check into like for my minions, for my workers. Yeah, while we're eating ramen over here because we're so broke. But anyways, yeah, no,
There's
I
so much
mean,
money. There's so much money in this. So much.
yeah, but the truth is that I didn't set off to do it as countering anything. It was just like, oh crap, there are lies about me in that letter. So I originally started it with just those specific parts. And like, okay, hey, she says she didn't give me her phone number, but she did. I'm gonna put that on here.
Yeah.
She says I say this, I didn't, I say that, and so on and so forth. And then as I was going through that, I was like, oh crap, maybe I should add this thing. And I started, oh hey, did she tell you this thing or that thing? And that's when I got more and more screenshots from different people. This isn't something that came together in one night. It's something
No.
that took months
Hmm.
of like talking to people and getting information and getting it correctly, because you don't want to be fucking wrong. If I am wrong in
Right.
any of these things, I will admit it. Like the part that we corrected today, I had it
Hmm.
wrong because we hadn't connected the dots. If there's
Hmm.
anything else that is still wrong, I am willing to change it. I'm willing to change my mind, obviously.
Right.
But this is what we have up to this point, and this is what the reality and what the evidence shows. It's not my opinions. It's not something I. It's not a storyline that I created. It's a
Right.
storyline that happened based on what other people saw.
Yeah.
So, all right, I think that's everything I have. That was a sudden cut, but yeah. It's been 87 years. Okay, that was
It's
in Titanic.
it feels like it's been
It
87
feels.
years. Oh my god.
That's the Titanic quote thingy. But it just feels. I keep telling people it feels like in the last year I've aged 10. It's been so stressful. Decisions. This decision to come out with this information did not come easily. Um I was recently diagnosed with PTSD, and this has been really hard for me to deal with. I had my puke bag when Trusty Abe was reading everything, and I asked him to read it without looking at it before. I just dropped it at him,
Yeah.
and I was ready to throw up. I was sick to my stomach because I didn't want to do that. I
Hmm.
didn't. Um, yeah, I know nobody wanted it to come to this, including Nancy. I I can't tell for sure, right? But based on my communications with Nancy, I think she will be horrified by the circus that was created from December up till now with her very vulnerable story and very private information, and it fucking sucks. And if my sisters did that to me, which they've done shitty stuff to me, which is why I don't speak to them, which is why blood doesn't make family. Blood doesn't mean that you have a right to somebody else's story.
Yeah. And I agree. I think she would have been horrified by this, but at the same time, I don't. If she did have the letter notarized, which I guess is what we have to um, go with, I don't know what the intent was. We're not going to know. We just have to go by what we know and what she told us, and that's what we're doing. What we know because of what she said and because of what evidence exists, and that's what I would recommend anybody else do.
Yeah, same. Yeah, look at it and come to your own conclusions, your own thoughts, your own opinions. You are entitled to them. All right. And thank you, everybody that's in the chat that's been hanging out. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, which we are going to leave the comment sections open for anybody to comment or whatever they want. Um, Oh, okay. Yeah, there's actually a clip of Jay Bundy asking for forgiveness from Nancy after, um, because he did not have her consent. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, thank you. I hope that everybody takes the time to review all the information that we provided. Go to the website. You can go to the website, which I had it pulled up from Ember earlier. But anyways, it's what happened at NaNoCon 2025.com.
Yep.
I love it. Yeah. And yeah, and everybody can ask questions. We'll try to answer them. Look at all the information, watch the videos. You can read Nancy's letter yourself before you start everything, just so you know, like the background if you're not aware of what the fuck we were just talking about.
Yeah. And if you have questions, you can put them in the comments, right? In the comments of this video too, if you have questions. And I know that I'll monitor this for a while and answer any questions you all have. So, or you can reach out to me, Casey at godlessengineering.com. Like
Perfect.
the letters Casey, you can see it on the screen. Casey
Okay.
at godlessengineering.com.
Oh yeah, engineering, not engineer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's godless engineer, not godfather.
Right.
Although
There's
he
been some
is.
misconception that it's Godfather Engineer, but that is not true. It's Godless Engineering. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, for the 57th time. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Casey, so much.
Thanks for having me.
This is it. Yeah. And thank you, John, back there somewhere, for the paychecks.
He waved. Checks in the mail.
All right, guys. Have a great one, and we will see you next time.
Bye.